Chapter 231. You dare to be impudent in front of me? If I could kill you once in my previous life, you won't be able to do the same in this life. At this moment, Li Zongjiu's evil lord's aura bloomed vigorously. It instantly suppressed the small black dragon in front of him. The black dragon seemed to want to struggle. The dark dragon soul was the most difficult to deal with among the 4 supreme dragon souls in his previous life. This was because the dark dragon sovereign was extremely cunning and treacherous. Moreover, the ability it possessed was also very strange. This caused Li Zongjiu to pay a heavy price before he could kill the dark dragon sovereign. Some people said that Li Zongjiu killed the 4 supreme dragon souls for his own selfish desires in order to break through. They said that he was immoral and killed the innocent. However, Li Zongjiu said that he was right. What can you do? Only strength is right. Other than that, everything else is just a lie. Now that Li Zongjiu had returned with the power of the 4 supreme dragon souls, only the dark dragon soul did not provide any help. Obviously, the dark dragon soul must be hiding. If Li Zongjiu was not careful, it was very likely that he would be devoured by the dark dragon soul. At that time, the dark dragon soul would occupy this body, and not Li Zongjiu's soul. It was normal for the dark dragon soul to do such a ruthless thing. The dark dragon soul was caught in Li Zongjiu's hand. At this moment, the dark dragon soul was indeed in an extremely weak state. In this state, Li Zongjiu could easily kill the dark dragon soul. However, it would be too wasteful if he did that. In the past, I didn't know how to use the white god Fu. Now, I know. Li Zongjiu's lips curled into a cold smile. As the white god Fu operated, Li Zongjiu's mental power was also rapidly condensing. The dark dragon soul continued to struggle, releasing terrifying dark elemental energy, corroding Li Zongjiu's elemental energy. However, the power of the dark dragon soul came from Li Zongjiu. How could it defeat Li Zongjiu? The white piece is set. Li Zongjiu's mind power turned into a white chess piece and suddenly fell towards the dark dragon soul. To ordinary people, this was an extremely simple mental attack. However, in the eyes of the dark dragon soul, that white chess piece was like a towering mountain range that came crashing down. The ancient and boundless qi that swirled around the white chess piece completely sealed the dark dragon soul within it. As for these living beings in the soul state, they had no resistance at all. Just like that, it was suppressed so easily. Roar! With a powerless roar, the power of the dark dragon soul finally turned into pure energy and flowed back into Li Zongjiu's body. A pitch-black pattern suddenly appeared on Li Zongjiu's origin pearl. The power contained in this pattern was the power of the dark dragon soul. A sinister and ruthless aura gradually rose from Li Zongjiu's body. The power system of the dark dragon soul was incomparably dark and mysterious. It was like an invisible death god that could appear at your side at any time. Now, it had been refined by Li Zongjiu and officially become the power of Li Zongjiu's origin spirit. It was all thanks to the crystal in his hand that Li Zongjiu was able to find this guy's weakness in such a short period of time and find it out. Although the battle ended quickly, in reality, the danger just now was only a hair's breadth away. If Li Zongjiu had not been able to subdue the dark dragon soul, Li Zongjiu would have been the one to die. Fortunately, Li Zongjiu's strength was enough. However, that attack had consumed all of Li Zongjiu's mental strength. Therefore, Li Zongjiu did not take out the crystal to study. Instead, he took an elixir and meditated to recover his origin power and mental strength. After this consumption, he also needed to replenish his energy. This black crystal was definitely out of the ordinary, and it was bound to come with a risk. The sky gradually brightened. Li Zongjiu sat on the edge of the bed and felt that his white god Fu seemed to have improved a little. The heavenly void god record and the ancient tyrant golden body had entered the 2nd level. However, the white god Fu was still stuck at the 1st level. After last night's battle, the sturdy barrier of the 1st level had begun to show signs of loosening. Looks like I just need to put in a little more effort to break through to the second level. Then, my mental strength will also become stronger. For an alchemist, this little bit of effort was naturally enough to refine an elixir. As it was still early, Li Zongjiu took out the black crystal once again. After refining the dark dragon soul, Li Zongjiu had a better understanding of the item in front of him. I didn't expect that person to not be bragging. This item is indeed worth 200 million. Li Zongjiu observed for a while and said. However, based on the strength of the person last night, he could not be sure. In reality, this crystal was indeed as he said. This was a legendary obsidian crystal. Within it, there was a wisp of dark flame. The name of this flame was obsidian fire. Not to mention that a phoenix could be reborn in fire, this dark dragon's soul could also be reborn. Within the obsidian stone, there was an extinguished obsidian fire seed. If the obsidian fire seed wanted to reignite, it would require the power of darkness. If the dark dragon's soul wanted to revive, it would also require the power of the obsidian fire seed. If the two were to combine, it wouldn't take long for the dark dragon's soul to be reborn. However, it was a pity that he met Li Zongjiu at this time. This obsidian crystal could only be found by chance. If he missed this opportunity, he did not know how many years it would be before he could find it again. As Li Zongjiu's strength increased, he would definitely be able to find the hidden dark dragon soul. At that time, it would still be a dead end. This time, he wanted to take a risk, but now, it seemed that he had failed. He understood how terrifying the power within this obsidian crystal was. Li Zongjiu was also extremely excited. Obsidian fire. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu had suffered a lot because of this fire. This fire could incinerate the soul. Once touched, the soul would be burned and the pain would be incomparable. It was because of this terrifying effect that Li Zongjiu, who had the dark dragon soul in his body, could also control the power of the obsidian fire in his current life. Since that's the case, let me see just how powerful you are. Li Zongjiu was a little impatient. When one's cultivation reached the primitive emperor realm, or even the sovereign realm, he did not care about external injuries. Only by mastering a powerful soul attack could people be afraid of him. Once the soul power was damaged, unless it was some extremely special elixir, it would be extremely difficult to recover. In his previous life, Li Zongjiu was sought after because Li Zongjiu had the elixir formula to recover soul power. Therefore, a large number of experts followed Li Zongjiu and were willing to be at Li Zongjiu's beck and call. He circulated the power of the dark yuan runes in his body and quietly poured it into the black crystal in his hand. Suddenly, a crisp cracking sound could be heard. Crack. Chapter 232. The black crystal shattered into pieces. Then, a dark green bead emerged from it. This bead was only about half the size of a fingernail. It didn't seem to have anything special about it. However, when Li Zongjiu's dark elemental energy surged out and landed on the bead emitted a ray of light. Buzz! As the light surged out, one could feel that the bead was emitting heat. Li Zongjiu carefully stared at the bead in his hand. Within the bead, there seemed to be some kind of energy that was constantly erupting. Throughout the entire process, he could clearly feel that a life force was being born. Crack! Boom! In less than 3 seconds, the bead shattered. At the same time, a weak flame appeared in the palm of his hand. This swaying light was just like a strand of hair. Although it was extremely small, Li Zongjiu could clearly feel the terrifying energy coming from it. Such pure energy! Li Zongjiu sucked in a breath of cold air. To be able to hold such power in his hand, if he shook it slightly and it fell onto his body, he wouldn't be able to wash it off even if he jumped into a river. This obsidian fire must be refined with mental energy. Li Zongjiu read the refining method from the memories of the dark dragon soul. To be honest, when he found out about this method, Li Zongjiu even suspected that the dark dragon's soul wanted to kill him behind his back, so it left behind such a method. After all, once this thing invaded his soul, it would definitely devour Li Zongjiu's soul. Mental energy was the soul of a living person. If Li Zongjiu died, this mental energy would turn into soul power and exist. The premise was that it was strong enough, or there was a special force guiding it. This strand of flame was as thin as a strand of hair. It seemed weak, but if it touched one's body, it would definitely burn one to ashes in an instant, bathing one's soul in this flame. If one wasn't careful, one's soul might be burned to ashes by the flames. Come. How could Li Zongjiu retreat at this moment? With the support of the 4 dragon souls in his body, he didn't believe that he couldn't subdue this wisp of flame. Immediately, Li Zongjiu released his spiritual power and infused the power into it. Boom! When the mind power came into contact with the flame in his hand, the white chess piece formed by the mind power suddenly burned with a raging flame. Li Zongjiu immediately felt like he was being devoured by the flames. It was as if he had arrived in hell in an instant. Even so, Li Zongjiu was still concealing his spirit and qi. He sat cross-legged on the bed without moving. The wisp of blue fire spread throughout his body, causing Li Zongjiu great pain. Li Zongjiu also knew that if his mental energy was completely burned away by this flame, it would mean that he would be dead for sure. Therefore, Li Zongjiu had to maintain a strong mental strength. Since that's the case, let me see how strong your flame is. Li Zongjiu snorted coldly in his heart. Since you want to fight with me, I'll fight with you until the end. Li Zongjiu immediately activated his mental strength. He had to consume all of this power in order to refine this flame origin. This way, Li Zongjiu would be able to control this power. In order to obtain this powerful power, he naturally had to pay a certain price. This raging flame burned his soul for an entire day and night. When Li Zongjiu opened his eyes again, there seemed to be a flash of fire in his eyes. The aura in the distance seemed to have been ignited by Li Zongjiu's eyes. The obsidian flame was hidden in his own mental strength. Li Zongjiu was even more surprised. After a day and night of torment, it was actually him who had allowed his white god Fu to break through to the 2nd level. As for his current mental state, it had directly merged with the flame from the white chess piece. The obsidian flame had become the embodiment of Li Zongjiu's mental state. As he opened his palm, a wisp of flame danced in his palm. Li Zongjiu looked at the flame in his hand, his eyes reflecting the pitch-black flame. The obsidian flame was still weak. Although it had merged with Li Zongjiu's mental strength, it still needed time to slowly nurture it before it could become a powerful force that could be controlled by Li Zongjiu. Although it's still in its embryonic form, its power is comparable to the strength of a Sky Origin ancestor's Yuan energy. Li Zongjiu was shocked. This was only the beginning. If it already possessed such power, it meant that its starting point was very high. Refining the obsidian flame would also help Li Zongjiu break through his mental strength. This was the most surprising part. The obsidian flame that I spent so much effort refining has only broken through to the 2nd level of the white god Fu. It seems like it will be even more difficult to continue improving. If he wanted to improve quickly, the most reliable way besides using elixirs was to find Yuan stones that could temper his mental strength. This way, his cultivation speed would increase by leaps and bounds. However, such primordial stones were extremely expensive. It was not something that ordinary people could afford. Why am I sitting on the floor? Li Zongjiu glanced at the bed. It turned out that the flames that Li Zongjiu had released last night had burned a hole in the bed and caused him to sit on the floor. Just like that, a hole had been burned into the bed. Knock, knock, knock. There was a series of knocks on the door. Come in. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and opened the door. The person who came in was the waiter. Sir, the Lord of the Sky Rain Pavilion has called for you. He said that the things you wanted have arrived. Li Zongjiu nodded. 2.5 days had passed and it would be the 3rd day soon. The Sky Rain Pavilion should have finished preparing the things. I got it. Li Zongjiu had never let go of the matter of chasing after Su Changjiang. This guy would definitely be a disaster if he kept him alive. His father was unwilling to be so ruthless because of their relationship. However, Li Zongjiu knew how vicious Li Changjiang was. Furthermore, one of his hands had been chopped off. He would definitely hate the Li family. How could such a person be kept alive? "Sir, your bed, you have to pay for it." The waiter saw that there was a hole in the bed behind Li Zongjiu. At first, he thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. However, when he took a closer look, he realized that it was indeed burned by Li Zongjiu. In this inn, there would often be some strange people cultivating here. Then, the room would catch fire from time to time. Usually, there would be some things on the side to put out the fire. This kind of situation was common. "Keep the change." Li Zongjiu directly threw out 100,000 gold coin banknote. This was the epitome of wealth. This bed didn't cost more than a few dozen gold yuan, but Li Zongjiu had actually given 100,000 gold yuan. Only Li Zongjiu could do such a thing. When the waiter received this huge sum of money, he was so scared that he almost knelt on the ground. No one around knew about such a huge sum of money. He could just hide it and pay for the bed. Then, everything would be easy to deal with. 100,000 gold coins was enough to build a house in his hometown. Such a casual action had changed the fate of a waiter in his shop. Li Zongjiu walked directly to the Tianyu Tavern. These days, the Tianyu Tavern seemed to be very lively. There were also many people gathered in front of the Tianyu Tavern in Lower Kong City. "Look, the Yang family is also recruiting. Looks like there's going to be a tough battle. The Shi family is paying even more. Also, I heard that the Tiger Gang has already gone over. There are still places available. Shall we go and try?" Hearing these voices, Li Zongjiu automatically put them behind his ear. He walked towards the VIP passage. This time, he didn't have to pay. He walked in directly. Damn, how can that kid just walk in? That's the VIP passage. He's the one who spends money. Chapter 233. Not long after Li Zongjiu sat down, Supervisor Cheng came in with a long sealed box. The length of the box was just enough to hold a scroll. In other words, it contained the information that Li Zongjiu wanted. However, judging from Supervisor Cheng's expression, it seemed that he was not ready to give this to Li Zongjiu. "What's wrong? Is the price not enough?" Before Supervisor Cheng spoke, Li Zongjiu said directly. Logically speaking, the money that Li Zongjiu paid was enough to buy anything, not to mention that Li Changjiang was just a person from a small Luoxia city. Could it be that he had some kind of protection behind him? Mr. Li misunderstood. Of course, the money is enough. However, whether you want to read this information or not, we still need to communicate with you. Now, are you sure you want to open this document? Supervisor Cheng said. Some business deals were hot. However, there were some things that had to be done for the sake of money. Now that Li Zongjiu was sitting here and the information in his hands was of great importance, if something happened later, Li Zongjiu would not be able to escape responsibility. Their rain pavilion was in charge of selling information. Therefore, they had to let the buyers know what exactly the item in their hands was and what kind of impact it would have. At the same time, they had to make the buyer admit that it was something they insisted on wanting. In this way, there would not be any problems in the future that would be blamed on Rain Pavilion. Everything would be borne by Li Zongjiu alone. As for Li Zongjiu's identity, Supervisor Cheng had also done some investigation in the past 2 days. However, he was the young master of the Li family in Luoxia City. Although his recent performance was somewhat outstanding and his strength was not bad, he was still a little lacking in maturity to take on this task. This matter is voluntary by me, Li Zongjiu. What do you think? Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Most of the time, the other party's kind warnings were useless. They were already at the door, so who would care about how many serious matters were involved? The other party was just going through the procedures. Alright, since young hero Lee has personally replied, then this dossier will be opened by you personally. Supervisor Cheng said as he handed the box and the key to Lee Zongjio. The sense of ceremony was still very important. As expected of a big business, these things still needed to be paid attention to. Supervisor Cheng also stood up and waited outside the door. Only Lee Zongjio was left in the room. Lee Zongjio opened the box in his hand without a care in the world. He took out the information inside and read it carefully. Sure enough, this Li Changjiang had actually become a lackey of the Qingyuan villa. Since it was related to the Qingyuan villa, there was naturally a certain degree of danger. At the very least, it wouldn't be so easy to deal with. The matter of the Qingyuan villa wasn't so easy to get rid of. In fact, it was already a very sensitive topic in the intelligence community. According to the information provided by the Rain Pavilion, this Li Changjiang was doing well. In Dinghuan province, in the 72 cities, he had become a small leader. His subordinates could directly contact the experts of the Black Zen sect, the Blood Moon sect, and other sections. His strength wasn't good, but he still had a certain advantage in terms of ability. The last time he appeared was in the wild forest 30 miles away from Shakang City. Even Li Zongjio couldn't help but wipe his eyes. It was clear that he had personally delivered his head to them. And it was close by. This was naturally the best for Li Zongjio. This Li Changjiang must have a motive for appearing. Otherwise, he wouldn't appear so easily. This guy seems to be quite busy, but no matter where you are, I will catch you. Li Zongjio snorted coldly in his heart. In Li Zongjio's heart, Li Changjiang was already a person who had been sentenced to death. The next location is predicted to be Wolf-Fang Valley. Li Zongjio exclaimed in surprise. It seemed like buying information from the Rain Pavilion was worth the extra money. Based on this kind of service, they had even given such a prediction. Although it wasn't necessarily accurate, it was still somewhat helpful. Li Zongjio naturally had a rough idea of where to go. This time, you won't be able to escape. The 72 cities referred to the 72 third-class cities in Dinghuan province. This was an extremely general number. Even cities like Luoxia City were included. Some of the cities were located in remote areas, but they were still within the boundaries of Dinghuan province. Li Changjiang's current status was the leader of the two major sections. He relied on the people under him to win over the powers of the surrounding cities. If there were any who were dissatisfied, they would be secretly assimilated and cleaned up. Qingyuan Villa had already been laying down this foreshadowing, waiting for an opportunity to explode. Wolf-Fang Valley. Li Zongjio memorized the name of this place. He got up and prepared to leave. Supervisor Cheng was also at the door to see him off. Young hero Li, this old man will send you off, said Supervisor Cheng. After all, he had spent 1,000,000 gold coins. Naturally, he had to be considerate in his service. However, he also hoped that Li Zongjio would come to the Rain Pavilion again. It's good for young people to be enthusiastic. However, there are some things that you can't be impulsive about. Supervisor Cheng couldn't help but say. A small number of people like them who sold information were also here to seek revenge. It could be seen from their eyes that they clearly knew that their strength was inferior to the other party. However, after knowing this information, they still wanted to kill the other party even if they had to die. In the end, they died tragically under the enemy's blade. In the end, they didn't succeed in their revenge. Wasn't this injustice? Li Zongjio was still young. He was obviously here to seek revenge. Supervisor Cheng's words were not part of his job description. If Li Zongjio was willing to listen to him, then he would listen. However, if he didn't, it had nothing to do with him. In this line of work, one must have a bottom line that could not be casually crossed. Otherwise, one would fall into deep self-blame. What are those people doing? Li Zongjio looked at the bustling hall of the Rain Pavilion. Some groups that were usually in a state of rest also appeared one after another, causing the business of the Rain Pavilion to flourish. Because something had appeared in Wolf Fang Valley recently, the families in the city could be said to be recruiting people and looking for talents from all walks of life. They wanted to fight for it. This was a time to test their financial resources and comprehensive strength. Every time a treasure hunt happened, such a situation would occur. It was extremely popular. Recently, a meteorite fell from the sky in Wolf Fang Valley. It is said that the meteorite brought some terrifying meta beasts with it. However, the meteorite itself has the effect of increasing one's mental strength. Hence, the forces in the city are recruiting here. Wolf Fang Valley. Li Zongjiu was surprised. Wasn't this the place he wanted to go? It seemed like Li Changjiang had come to Wolf Fang Valley for this reason. However, the information provided by the Rain Pavilion didn't mention this. Obviously, this was another piece of information. In order to make money, they naturally had to hide this layer. Guardian Li. After bidding farewell to Supervisor Cheng, he had just taken 2 steps when he heard a surprised voice. Li Zongjiu looked over and saw Yang Hongyu from the Wuxue Hill sect standing in front of him with a look of surprise. Chapter 234. Beside Yang Hongyu, there was another female disciple from the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. However, Li Zongjiu did not know her name. It seemed like she had returned to meet her parents. Greetings, Protector. The female disciple respectfully greeted Li Zongjiu. This was the youngest protector of the Fog Snow Alchemy sect. The strength and luck that he displayed in the arena were enough to make the disciples look up to him. Protector, are you here for the Wolf Fang Valley? When Yang Hongyu saw Li Zongjiu appear, he immediately knew. However, he was still amazed. It had only been a few days, yet the protector was able to obtain this information and rush over. Obviously, there was a powerful force behind this. Li Zongjiu nodded. The main reason was to hunt down Li Changjiang. Now that he knew that there was something in the Wolf Fang Valley that could increase one's mental energy, Li Zongjiu was even more interested. How could he miss out on such a good opportunity? Even if it could only increase one's cultivation speed by 1%, it would still be a priceless treasure. If Protector doesn't mind, you can follow our Yang family. Let's set off. It just so happens that our group is also rushing towards the Wolf Fang Valley. The Wolf Fang Valley's roads are complicated and there are many traps. If we are not careful, it will be easy to take the wrong path. Protector, let's go together. We can look after each other on the road. There was an urgent desire in Yang Hongyu's eyes. He hoped that Li Zongjiu would go with them. That way, there would be an expert in their team, and they wouldn't panic no matter what. Okay. Li Zongjiu did not think too much about it. Since he had already said so, he might as well go together. After all, these were only the younger generation of the sect. Their lives were in his hands and they would not be a threat. Furthermore, if they went together, it would definitely save a lot of trouble. The Wolf Fang Valley had already become a popular place. Many people were waiting to take advantage of the chaos to create a commotion. At this time, if they did not stabilize the situation, it was very likely that various small battles would break out. It would become a place where hatred would erupt. When he heard Li Zongjiu agree, Yang Hongyu's eyes were filled with joy. Young master, we've recruited everyone. At this moment, a middle-aged man dressed like a butler came to Yang Hongyu's side and cupped his hands. Behind the butler were some mercenaries dressed as hunters and killers. These people were all recruited on the spot. The vanguard troops of the Yang family and the other families had already set off, and this batch of troops would also be sent to the battlefield as reinforcements. No matter what, the reinforcements must be done beautifully. If they had the upper hand, they could take advantage of the situation and crush their enemies. If he was weak, he could make up for it. If they really couldn't do it, they could at least have someone to cover their retreat. Young master, this is... The middle-aged housekeeper saw Li Zongjio and couldn't help but frown. Now was a critical time. Not all good friends and brothers could be trusted. Who knew how many people would pretend to be good on the surface, just to stab you in the back at the last critical moment? Therefore, he had to be careful. Uncle Nyo, this is the protector of our fog snow alchemy sect, Protector Li is willing to go with us to Wolf Ivory Mountain. Yang Hongyu introduced, but the man called Uncle Nyo didn't say anything, nor did he have an exaggerated expression. After all, the strength of Fog Snow Alchemy sect, in the eyes of these people, was like a group of country bumpkins playing with themselves. There were really no talents. Even such a young child could become a protector. Was there a mistake? Was this protector bought with money, or did it depend on his skin? Young master, you've already crossed the bottom line of the family head by taking this girl. Now you want to bring an outsider with an unknown identity. This is making things difficult for me, Butler Nyo couldn't help but say. To be honest, this would also be an experience. Although Yang Hongyu was the son of a concubine, he was still the blood of the master. If he performed well, there was a chance for him to be put in an important position. After all, the master still thought highly of Yang Hongyu. He specifically asked Uncle Nyo to bring Yang Hongyu along. Those young masters of the main family had already set off. Uncle Nyo asked Yang Hongyu to stay with the backup team in order to prevent Yang Hongyu from bumping into those big brothers. Otherwise, Yang Hongyu would suffer a lot. The girl beside Yang Hongyu was also a girl brought back. Logically speaking, she couldn't go with them. However, for Yang Hongyu's sake, Butler Nyo didn't stop them too much. He just had to be careful when the time comes. If there was something wrong with this girl, even if she was killed on the spot, it would be a very normal thing for them. However, now that they had to bring an outsider, it unknowingly increased their risk. If this Li Zongjio was bribed by the enemy to spy on them, or if he was here to cause trouble, it was very likely to lead to a big disaster. This kind of thing couldn't be careless. Uncle Nyo, don't worry. I guarantee it with my life. Yang Hongyu said. Uncle Nyo, he's just a kid. Don't worry. We, the Black Fierce Vajra group, will watch over you. Now, let's hurry up and go. At this moment, a muscular man walked up. The people behind him were also dressed in black. Moreover, they were all muscular men. With such a physique, no matter where they went, they would be extremely eye-catching. And such a lineup was the famous Black Fierce Vajra group in the city. The strongest and fiercest person in the lead was said to be able to kill a level 2 meta beast with a single punch. With such mighty strength and power, what else was there to say? Of course, you're the strongest. Obviously, these people from the Black Fierce Vajra group didn't put Li Zongjio in their eyes. Even if Li Zongjio wanted to do something, he could easily kill him. In front of him, such a thin and weak body couldn't take a punch at all. Butler Nyo didn't care about this matter. After all, he was only a butler, and his surname wasn't even Yang. If something really happened, the Yang family wouldn't kill a young master of a concubine and leave him, a servant with a different surname. Since Yang Hongyu insisted, he would let Yang Hongyu bring him along. Let's go. Young master, please take care of us on the way. Don't wander around and talk nonsense. Every preparation of strength was an extremely important matter. Hence, it had to be kept secret. Otherwise, if the other party knew how many people you were bringing and which route you were taking, they would be able to prepare better. It wouldn't be strange for them to even kill you in advance. Li Zongjio naturally knew the concerns in Butler Nyo's heart. However, to Li Zongjio, it didn't matter. He just wanted to set off quickly. These people from the Black Fierce Vajra group actually had their own battle beasts. Some people would raise their battle beasts from young. They would bring them along, nurture them, and fight together. Some people who were more determined would choose to refine their battle beasts into their own Yuan spirits after they broke through to the Sky Origin Ancestor realm if the potential of their battle beasts was sufficient. Of course, most people hadn't reached this level. Before that, they were still the best of companions. There were a total of 7 people in the Black Fierce Vajra group. Every one of them had a different yuan beast by their side. These yuan beasts had different functions. Those who could raise these yuan beasts had a certain foundation. Otherwise, the daily expenses of these yuan beasts would be huge. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to bear it at all. Obviously, the strength of these people was not bad. Other than the Black Ferocious Vajra group, there were also some idle mercenaries who were following this group. However, they were relatively independent. Many times, these people who fought alone were more dangerous. However, under the general trend, there was a high possibility that they would become cannon fodder. Chapter 235. The Yang family's team rode on fast horses and carriages as they sped towards the Wolf Fang Valley. There was originally only one carriage. However, at Yang Hongyu's request, another one was added. It was meant for Li Zongjiu. This made the mercenaries from the Dark Fierce King Kong group very unhappy. What kind of ability does this kid have to actually dare to sit inside the carriage while they were riding outside, risking the danger of being shot to death? However, they did not immediately go berserk. Although Steward Niu also knew that this was not appropriate, Yang Hongyu's attitude was firm. Otherwise, Yang Hongyu would have allowed Li Zongjiu to enter the carriage while he rode outside, which would have unknowingly increased the risk of danger. There are still 4 hours before sunset. We have to reach the camp within 3 hours. Steward Niu glanced at the sky and then at the map. They had to speed up. This group of more than 20 people was not a weak force. Go! The horses galloped. The dirt road on the ground had already been trampled to a pulp and mud was flying everywhere. Furthermore, they had naturally eaten a lot of dust as they rode. On the other hand, Li Zongjiu was very relaxed as he ate fruits in the carriage. At the same time, he was also playing with the flame that he had just refined in the carriage. The obsidian flame flickered gently in his palm. The power of the obsidian flame can be unleashed at will. This is really not bad. Li Zongjiu could not help but admire the power of the obsidian flame in his heart. This was indeed a huge surprise for him. Now, he had even more sure-kill moves. The evil soul eye, the golden dragon finger, and the obsidian flame. Even if he faced some slightly stronger origin ancestor level powerhouses, Li Zongjiu was confident that he would be able to kill them before they took out their yuan spirits. There was a huge difference between a origin ancestor level powerhouse with a yuan spirit and a origin ancestor level powerhouse without one. Just like the old man that Li Zongjiu had killed in the Northern Medicine Tower previously, he should have only broken through to the origin ancestor realm after a long time. Under such circumstances, it would be extremely difficult for him to refine his yuan spirit. Because once that power was poured into the body, it was very likely that your body would explode. If his body couldn't bear it, then such danger would appear. Therefore, in order to not take any risks, that person didn't completely refine the power of this origin spirit that day. At most, it could only be considered an incomplete primordial spirit power. The spiritual power of the second level of the White God endowment and the power of the obsidian flame was enough for Li Zongjiu to kill in all directions. The group quickly advanced forward. The Wolf Ivory mountain range was already right in front of their eyes. When they saw the mountain range in front of them, everyone could not help but slow down their footsteps. Currently, the night sky was gradually darkening. At this time, the light was the dimmest. Sometimes people could see clearly, and sometimes they couldn't. Usually, there would be hidden dangers at this time. Those hunters hiding in the jungle would never complain about prey that came too often and too easily. Everyone, be careful. Housekeeper Niu couldn't help but say as he composed himself. Then, the Black Fierce Vajra group also led people to protect the carriage group in the middle. Go! A black eagle war beast soared into the sky and swept towards the sky. In this darkness, the eagle's eyes were the sharpest weapon. If there was any danger, it would be able to see clearly from afar and report back to the people of the Black Fierce Vajra group in a timely manner. It was less than 20 minutes away from the camp. However, this 20 minutes journey was also the most difficult. In this deep mountain, danger could erupt from the side at any time and completely knock you down. A large group of people just passed by. We still don't know their identity. A member of the Black Fierce Vajra group went to scout and returned. However, just as he finished speaking, he heard a whistling sound from the depths of the forest. Whoosh! Be careful! With a cry of alarm, the sharp arrow suddenly pierced the back of the Black Fierce Vajra group member. With a thud, he fell to the ground. However, after falling down, he quickly crawled forward. The arrow just now didn't kill him. Instead, it hit the armor on his body. With the armor on his body, he could more or less resist some of the threats. Cough cough, when the arrow was pulled out, the steel plate on his back had already been pierced through. To have such powerful archery skills, it must be the multi-faced foxes group. The leader, Black Bear, also made an analysis. Just from the other party's attack, he could already determine the identity of the other party. Obviously, they were no strangers to this opponent. In Buck State, the only person who could possess such superb archery skills was the multi-faced fox. Between mercenary groups, there would often be friction. Sometimes, there would also be some deep hatred. This made people even more amazed. This was really too dramatic. This was because the enemy of the Yang family just happened to invite the multi-faced foxes group. Kiki, this road has already been sealed. You can take another road. If you continue to move forward, don't blame us for being impolite. From the depths of the forest, a cold laughter sounded. The arrow just now was just a show of force. Otherwise, that arrow would have been enough to blast this person's head. The reason why the other party didn't kill them was because they didn't want to cause more trouble. Although they had some friction with the multi-faced foxes group, they weren't considered life and death enemies but competitors. It was naturally a good thing to have one less competitor. There were many famous mercenary groups in Deccan City. The King Kong mercenary group, the multi-faced fox mercenary group, the tiger mercenary group, the wolf mercenary group, and the fierce horse mercenary group. Each of these mercenary groups had their own experts. This matter wasn't something that could be easily settled. Obviously, the other party had taken control of this road. It was to block the people behind. Even if they couldn't, a little delay would be of great benefit to them. Just their group alone was enough to wear down so many people. What should we do? Should we rush over? Housekeeper Nyo couldn't help but ask. Yang Hongyu also appeared at this time. The forest in front of them was sealed. At this moment, the sun was gradually setting and the light was dim. If they wanted to force their way in, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens. If they wanted to take a detour and take another road, they could still reach it. However, it would take more time, at least 3 times longer. The other party's archer is one of the best. Housekeeper Nyo couldn't help but feel a little nervous. To be honest, he hadn't experienced many life and death situations like this. He was just a housekeeper who usually took care of some family affairs, such as daily necessities. Now that he had to face a bloody battle with these people, he was a little flustered. The people of the Black Fierce Vajra group were also waiting for the orders of their employers. Even if they wanted to force their way in, their professionalism would let them. They would directly kill their way in without hesitation. In the underworld, the first thing one had to do was talk about professional ethics. Set fire, burn the dry grass, and create smoke. Since they are hiding in this forest, let's burn them all. Yang Hongyu made a prompt decision and directly gave the order. When these words came out, Housekeeper Nyo's eyes couldn't help but light up. This was indeed a good idea. Once the fire was set, the other party would definitely not be able to hold it in. At that time, they would take advantage of the situation and kill their way in. Shield. Release the fireball. One of the members of the Black Fierce Vajra group was holding a fiery red fox in his hand. He took a deep breath and then suddenly spat it out in front of him. Boom! A fireball was spat out from his mouth and fell towards the forest in front of him. When the people hiding in the forest saw this scene, they immediately knew that things weren't good. Boom! The fireball exploded, and the scorching heat instantly ignited the dry forest. Kill! The people of the Black Fierce Vajra group were indeed brave and fierce. They led their men and killed their way in. They rushed into the flames without the slightest fear. Chapter 236. Many-faced Fox led a few archers and quickly retreated from the forest. Now is not the time to confront them head-on. With our equipment, we have a chance to kill them. Many-faced Fox said to a man. The man was wearing the Sure family's uniform. The power of the Sure family was slightly stronger than that of the Yang family in Lower Kong City, but both sides were evenly matched. Hearing Many-faced Fox's explanation, Sure Yen nodded. Retreat. Sure Yen from the Sure family was ordered to stop these reinforcements. If necessary, it was necessary to take a few heads. It was time to intimidate these people and let them know the gap between them. The people of the Black Fierce Vajra group opened up a path of fire. The following road was no longer suitable for carriages, so they got down from the carriage. The leader of the Black Fierce Vajra group said to the young masters with a dark face. For the rest of the time, you will walk in the middle and don't run around. Otherwise, we won't be able to protect you. Since they had received the money, they had to do it. This time, the Black Fierce Vajra group had paid a high price to hire them. This price alone was worth their lives, but they didn't want to die. Therefore, he needed these foolish young employers to cooperate a little. Don't worry, let's go. Yang Hongyu said. He had experience in the Fog Snow Pellet sect, but when he really came to this dangerous situation, he couldn't help but feel a little nervous. However, when he looked at the calm Li Zongjiu beside him, he calmed down a little. Li Zongjiu was an expert who could defeat a general realm expert. As long as Li Zongjiu was here, there would be no problem. These children are probably scared to the point of peeing their pants. Someone from the Black Fierce Vajra group looked at Li Zongjiu and said meaningfully. Naturally, he was mocking Li Zongjiu. There was no other reason. It was because Li Zongjiu had been sitting in the carriage all this time and didn't show his face. The mountain road was rugged, so it was naturally bumpy for them to sit on the back of the horse. Most importantly, Li Zongjiu didn't pay them, so why did he need them to protect him? This was a very disadvantageous situation for them. Li Zongjiu did not pay them. It's not just peeing his pants. I think he's about to poop. The members of the Black Fierce Vajra group ridiculed Li Zongjiu. They had just broken through the blockade set up by the multi-faced fox. Naturally, their hearts were filled with arrogance. Facing this Li Zongjiu, what was there to be afraid of? Naturally, their words were as ugly as they could be. If they were to talk about acting shamelessly, then they were really no match for these people. Protector Li, don't take their words to heart. Yang Hongyu looked a little embarrassed. Wasn't this a slap to his face? However, Yang Hongyu also knew that they were able to enter this place because of the Black Ferocious Vajra group's contribution. Therefore, each of them had their own momentum. Protector, please be magnanimous. The girl next to him said the same thing, but she didn't say it too loudly. Otherwise, those people would go crazy again after hearing it, and they would be called despicable people in a while. What? We're here. Li Zongjiu suddenly woke up. Just now, Li Zongjiu was thinking about the power of the obsidian fire. One must know that the obsidian fire itself carried a powerful force. For Li Zongjiu, there were still a lot of areas that needed to be explored. The obsidian fire corresponded to a set of special elemental incantations. Therefore, Li Zongjiu was also thinking about this thing. He didn't hear what those people said at all. If Li Zongjiu cared so much about the words of some insignificant people, then Li Zongjiu's life would be very tiring. If you had the guts to say something in front of Li Zongjiu, then Li Zongjiu could guarantee that you wouldn't have to live so tiring in the future. Not yet. We need to walk this part of the road, but we'll be there soon. If they were to ride a horse, then they would easily become the enemy's target. Therefore, they had to walk on the ground. If they encountered any problems, they would be able to deal with them more easily. Moreover, the road here didn't allow them to move at high speed. Okay, let's go. Yang Hongyu nodded and the group continued on their way. For the members of the Black Fierce Vajra group, it seemed that breaking through the defense line of the multi-faced fox was a very honorable thing. So much so that they became even bolder when they moved. The group of people killed their way into the valley. Li Zongjiu suddenly stopped and raised his head to look at the top of the forest. What's wrong? Yang Hongyu couldn't help but ask. Just as his voice fell, he saw that above the treetops, more than a dozen black figures were descending from above. Crash! These people were very good at hiding their figures. Even the members of the Black Fierce Vajra group didn't notice them. Not good, enemy attack. The members of the Black Fierce Vajra group exclaimed. They saw their companions being easily cut down by the enemy. Kacha! A person rushed towards the leader of the Black Fierce Vajra group. When their blades collided, the leader of the Black Fierce Vajra group was able to clearly see the appearance of the person. Lupus Gang. The tall and thin leader was the leader of the Lupus Gang. The members of the Lupus Gang were despicable and shameless. They liked to launch sneak attacks from behind. They also liked to suddenly attack when their opponents were about to succeed and seize the fruits of their labor. The reputation of these people was extremely bad, but there was nothing that could be done about them. This was because their strength was also very strong. Even if they were to fight the Black Fierce Vajra group head-on, they might not be able to determine the victor, not to mention that the other party was also good at sneak attacks. Just the moment when they suddenly attacked, several people were seriously injured. Seriously injured? Hee, hey Xiong, you shouldn't have gotten involved in this muddy water. The leader of the Lupus Gang sneered. The serrated scimitar in his hand was like the fangs of a poisonous snake. He stared at the person in front of him and couldn't wait to behead He Xiong. Lupus, I think you're courting death. He Xiong's aura rose sharply. He Xiong didn't have the slightest bit of fear in a direct confrontation. Since the Lupus Gang dared to cause trouble and even tried to kill the members of the Vajra group, then they should be prepared to be killed. He Xiong was about to counterattack. However, he heard an intense sound of something breaking through the air from behind him. Xiao! Bang! He Xiong's entire body was sent flying. The arrow exploded behind him and directly blew up He Xiong's clothes, revealing the iron armor underneath. Even a large piece of the iron armor was shattered. Just this arrow alone was enough to seriously injure He Xiong. Cough cough, multi-faced fox. He Xiong, who was lying on the ground, spat out a mouthful of blood. He immediately realized that the multi-faced fox had actually joined forces with the Lupus Gang. These two fellows who were good at sneak attacks actually dared to join forces to deal with them. Hurry up and block them. Housekeeper Nyo said in an incomparably flustered manner as he continuously gave out orders. However, even under this chaotic roar, there was no visible effect. The Black Fierce Vajra group was already at a disadvantage. After being attacked from the front and back, they couldn't even react in time. More than half of their members were killed. The defeat of the remaining members was only a matter of time. You stay here and protect the protector. Yang Hongyu said to the girl beside him. Staying by Li Zongjiu's side was definitely the safest. Therefore, Yang Hongyu did the same. However, he had to take action and defeat the enemy. He had to lead his troops out of this place. Judging from the strength of these people's attacks, perhaps his father and the rest were also under extremely fierce attacks. It was precisely because of this that he had to lead the troops out of this place. Otherwise, it would be too late. Clang clang clang. After a round of fighting, danger surrounded them. However, in the end, the members of the Black Fierce Vajra group fell to the ground one after another. Now, only 3 of them were left standing side by side with Yang Hongyu, facing the enemy in front of them. Although the Lupus gang suffered some losses, they only lost a few people. Now, the enemy still had nearly 10 people. Moreover, in the darkness, there was still the archer unit led by the multi-faced fox eyeing them covetously. You can't escape, right? Young Master Yang, if you are willing to pay more, I can choose to let you live. Chapter 237. Luo Lang naturally would not let Yang Hongyu go. As long as he killed Yang Hongyu's wealth would naturally belong to the Luo Lang gang. You, how dare you? Aren't you afraid of our Yang family's revenge? Housekeeper Niu said angrily, pointing at Luo Lang. His eyes were filled with anger. This is not a simple task. If you touch the people of the Yang family, you are just a small mercenary group. Compared to the Yang family, even if you casually throw money, you will be crushed to death. Could it be that the other party didn't care about the consequences by doing this? For the sake of money, he wouldn't go as far as to throw away his life. Haha, the one who will kill you is naturally not me. Luo Lang sneered. Then, he stepped aside and made way. The person who walked out made Steward Niu, Yang Hongyu, and the others suck in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. It's you. Shi Yan. Yang Hongyu could be said to be gnashing his teeth in anger. Shi Yan was also wearing yellow clothes, looking at Yang Hongyu with a proud face. They had been rivals since they were young. Now that they had grown up, the competition between them had become more intense. Yang Hongyu was sent to the Snow Elixir sect to cultivate, which could be considered as an exile. This was partly due to Shi Yan's contribution. At that time, he had caused a lot of trouble in Lower Kong City. In order to cover up this matter, he had no choice but to send Yang Hongyu to the Snow Elixir sect. Now that they had met, it could be said that their eyes were exceptionally red. You didn't expect this, right, Yang Hongyu? Don't worry, after I kill you, I will take care of your woman for you. Shi Yan saw the woman beside Yang Hongyu, and his eyes were filled with lust. A woman with such a graceful figure was the best in the world. How could it be wasted on Yang Hongyu? Shameless. The woman beside Yang Hongyu could not help but say. Her face was filled with shame and anger. How could these people be so shameless? Alright, it's getting late. Those who should be on their way should be on their way. After saying that, Shi Yan waved his hand. Kill them. I'll kill you. Yang Hongyu roared. Suddenly, he saw an arrow flying towards Li Zongjiu's head, whoosh. The arrow did not hit Li Zongjiu. Instead, it turned into a ball of flame in front of Li Zongjiu's head and burned away completely. Li Zongjiu could not help but raise his head. Someone actually dared to ambush him. While he was thinking, someone shot an arrow at him. And the flame that burned the arrow was the obsidian fire that Li Zongjiu had just refined not long ago. Who would have thought that the obsidian fire had the ability to protect its owner? Something strange. When the multi-faced fox saw this scene from afar, he was also stunned. In fact, the arrow just now was not shot by them. It was one of his subordinates who had shaken his hand and shot the arrow at Li Zongjiu. However, he did not expect that the arrow could not even get close to Li Zongjiu's body. What, he actually has such an ability. Seeing Li Zongjiu's situation, Luo Lang and the others were shocked. On the other hand, Yang Hongyu was overjoyed. He had almost forgotten that Protector Li was here. With Protector Li's help, it would be a piece of cake to kill these people. Now that these people had angered Protector Li, only death awaited them. Kid, this has nothing to do with you. I don't think you're from the Yang clan. hurry up and leave. Otherwise, don't blame my sword for being merciless. Luo Lang looked at Li Zongjiu in front of him and felt that there was something strange about Li Zongjiu. Therefore, he hurriedly sent the people in front of him away. It was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. Anyway, they just had to complete the task. Originally, it had nothing to do with me. But now, it has something to do with me. Li Zongjiu directly stepped out. When He Xiong and housekeeper Niu saw Li Zongjiu walking out, they almost scolded him, "Kid, you're courting death." Anyway, at this point, not many people would be able to survive. Let's see what this kid has up his sleeves. Then you're determined to be our enemy. Luo Lang's eyes suddenly darkened, revealing a sinister look. The bloodlust steel blade in his hand suddenly slashed towards Li Zongjiu. Since Li Zongjiu did not intend to leave, he must be their enemy. Instead of waiting for the other party to make the first move, he might as well make the first move and take down Li Zongjiu first. Go! Li Zongjiu flicked his finger. There seemed to be a transparent flame energy that penetrated towards Luo Lang in front of him. With a swoosh, it sank into Luo Lang's body. Luo Lang's eyes widened as he stared at Li Zongjiu in front of him. He felt his body burning and was in extreme pain. He could no longer speak. Finally, with a shrill howl, Luo Lang's entire body was burned into a pile of ashes. Before turning into ashes, one could see the incomparable fear in Luo Lang's eyes. He didn't know where the flame came from, but it directly burned him to a crisp. There was no one who wouldn't be afraid. One must know that Luo Lang's strength was at the peak of the Yuanshe realm. Such an expert died so inexplicably. Could it be that Li Zongjiu had the ability to instantly kill a peak Yuanshe realm expert? Luo Lang's subordinates looked at each other. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, seeing Luo Lang's weapon turn into ashes, they would have thought that Luo Lang disappeared like a magic trick. This was really too terrifying. He killed the boss. Brothers, let's go together and destroy him. Luo Lang's subordinates immediately roared and rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu didn't disappoint them. Mental energy spread out along with the obsidian flame. He didn't even need to make a move. The charging bodies of these people abruptly stopped. After stopping, their entire bodies burned on the spot. Ah! So hot, so hot. My hand. Everyone lasted less than 3 seconds before they were all turned into ashes. There wasn't a trace of blood or flesh left. There wasn't the slightest trace of struggle. Even some of the things on their bodies were burned clean. There wasn't a single trace left. Just half a minute ago, these people still had the absolute advantage. They could even control the life and death of Yang Hongyu and the others. However, in the blink of an eye, they all disappeared completely from this world. This sudden change caused He Xiong and the rest to rub their eyes. They were afraid that this was some kind of magic trick that caused people to disappear. However, when they looked at the charred marks on the ground and smelled the charred smell, they understood that these people had been completely burned away. These people are still too weak. They are lucky that they didn't have to suffer the torture of burning their souls. Li Zongjiu sighed. He wanted to see what it was like to burn one's soul. However, with the strength of these people, they couldn't hold on until then. After killing Luo Lang and the others, Li Zongjiu reached out and grabbed the bow in one of their hands. He shot an arrow towards the forest in front of him. Xiao! This arrow didn't even have the process of aiming. It was as if it was shot randomly. However, the multi-faced fox broke out in a cold sweat from the shock of this arrow. When he lowered his head, he heard the arrow whizzing past his ear and abruptly shot one of his subordinates beside him. This person was the one who had carelessly released the arrow just now. Bang! This person's head directly exploded on the spot. It was as if a watermelon was thrown to the ground. It directly shot this person to death. Fuck, how is this possible? Many-faced fox hid his body under a soil mound and looked at his companion who was shot to death behind him. They were in the dark. Coupled with the restriction of the terrain, it was harder to shoot this arrow than to climb to the sky. Not to mention that the power of this arrow was so great that it directly shot a person to death. This made it even more ferocious. It was hard to believe that this arrow had to be so powerful and skilled to be able to do it. Many-faced Fox, who was good at archery, knew the power of this arrow. Retreat. Many-faced Fox hurriedly said in a low voice. If the arrow just now had wanted to take his life, it would have been easy. Chapter 238. Yang Hongyu and housekeeper Niu looked at each other. At this moment, Yang Hongyu suddenly had a feeling that after reaching a certain level, everything in the world seemed to be negligible. It was really the difference in level. Just like the dead Shi Yan. Just a second ago, Yang Hongyu was almost killed by Shi Yan, and Shi Yan had almost become his nightmare. He had been suppressed by Shi Yan since he was a child and had always regarded Shi Yan as his life's greatest enemy. However, at this moment, Shi Yan had died without a sound. He did not even leave behind any last words. Even at the moment of his death, Shi Yan did not expect such a situation to occur. A life-and-death enemy had disappeared just like that. For Li Zongjiu and Protector Li, Shi Yan was just a very simple stumbling block that they could easily kick away. There was no need to care too much about it. They could just throw him away directly. It was as if Shi Yan's death was not a big deal at all. At least in Li Zongjiu's eyes, it was so. Even Li Zongjiu did not know who he had just killed. What was his name? This is the attitude that a strong person should have. Yang Hongyu looked at the confident and proud Li Zongjiu. Although he did not know why Li Zongjiu had shot that arrow just now, it should have been a signal to threaten those people to leave quickly. However, no matter what, this threat had been avoided. Even if there were still people in the dark who had not made a move yet, they would think carefully at this moment and would not dare to make a move carelessly. However, although this external enemy had been eliminated, there were still people who were unwilling to accept it. You are so powerful. Why didn't you make a move earlier? If you had made a move earlier, my brother would not have died. You beast. There were only 2 people left in the Black Fierce Vajra group. In addition to He Xiong, there was a younger person who had joined the Black Fierce Vajra group later. He had wanted to make a name for himself, but in just a few days, his good brother had been killed just like that. The one who had died was his brother. Shut up. When He Xiong heard this, his expression changed. He quickly grabbed the person and covered his mouth. This person really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, daring to say anything. If the other party wanted to kill you, then it would just be a matter of exhaling a breath. Since the other party had saved you, it meant that you had saved your life. Yet, you still dared to criticize the other party for being too slow. That was simply too stupid. Why should I shut up? Motherfucker, you're a coward, trash, and dog shit. He Xiong couldn't stop his brother from speaking, and Li Zongjiu was already looking at him. The man was still cursing when he suddenly saw a figure approaching. It was Li Zongjiu. Whoosh! Li Zongjiu reached out his hand and lifted the man up. He choked the other party's neck. The man struggled but couldn't speak. The corner of his mouth even started to twitch. Cough cough, cough cough. Li Zongjiu grabbed the man's throat with one hand. One could see that the man was in extreme pain and had difficulty breathing. However, Li Zongjiu didn't let go of his hand, nor did he speak. He just hung the man up. Half a minute, 1 minute. Everyone could feel the man's pain. He Xiong wanted to plead for mercy, but he knew that it was impossible. He was wrong from the beginning. This Li Zongjiu was actually such a hidden expert. He didn't see it at all. The female disciples of Wuxue Pil's sect couldn't bear to look at him. Housekeeper Niu had never seen such a scene before. It would be more pleasant if he directly chopped off the man's head. However, it was the first time he saw someone slowly suffocating to death. Moreover, it was such a close distance. 2 minutes later. The man's body couldn't move anymore. His whole body went soft. There was no confrontation at all towards the man's cursing. You said bad things about me, so I'll just kill you. I'm still alive, but you're already lying on the ground as a cold corpse. You can't say anything. It was so simple. Do you want to avenge him? Looking at his teammate who had already turned into a corpse, He Xiong suddenly heard Li Zongjiu asking him. He was suddenly frightened. This was simply a greeting from the devil. Revenge? How could it be? He Xiong subconsciously shook his head like a rattledrum. No, he deserved to die. He deserved to die. He Xiong said in a trembling voice. He Xiong clearly knew about this matter. It was clearly this ignorant man who was courting death. The other party had already shown his strength so clearly, yet he still wanted to come up. Didn't he deserve to be killed? There was nothing to doubt at all. He Xiong had been around for so many years, so he naturally knew the temper of some experts. In front of these experts, human life was incomparably cheap. There was nothing to cherish. If they wanted to kill you, they would just kill you. Well, that's good. Let's go. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Hearing this, He Xiong finally breathed a sigh of relief. If he had answered incorrectly just now, Li Zongjiu would have directly reached out and killed him without hesitation. It would be as simple as squashing an ant. Now, he was the only one left in the Black Fierce gang. Although they could still recruit new members here, the loss this time was indeed quite heavy. But to be able to get rid of the Lupus gang, it was a huge gain for him. For He Xiong, this was a great harvest. At least in the future, if he told others that he was the one who killed Jackal, no one would doubt him. Even if he wasn't the one who killed Jackal, he would still have some credit. Steward Niu saw Li Zongjiu's ruthlessness and strength. He also widened his eyes. His eyes were really as wide as copper bells. He originally didn't want to bring Li Zongjiu along. He even thought that Li Zongjiu might be the enemy's spy, or someone who wanted to take advantage of others, or someone who was trying to swindle others. However, the strength that Li Zongjiu had displayed was enough to prove it. He was an extremely terrifying expert. Being able to kill the Lupus gang, who was at the pinnacle of the master level, meant that Li Zongjiu's strength was at least at the ancestor level. Fortunately, he didn't offend Li Zongjiu too much just now. Looking at the Black Fierce gang member who was strangled to death, Steward Niu heaved a sigh of relief. Otherwise, the person who was strangled to death would have been him. No matter what, he still had to continue on this path. He Xiong also continued to follow. Although his team was completely annihilated, he was still around. Furthermore, he would only be able to receive the remaining balance after this mission was over. In front of the Wolf Fang Mountain Valley, the ground was stained with blood everywhere. It was obvious that a bloody battle had broken out in the valley just a moment ago. No one would have thought that this battle would be so fierce. Both sides did not leave much room for maneuver. This battle was basically a battle of life and death. The Shi family's camp. The head of the Shi family had personally taken part in the battle. He already had a rough idea of the power of the meteorite. Even if one was only 100 meters away from it, one could feel the degree of activity of the mental energy. This showed how effective the meteorite was on mental energy. Whoever obtained such a divine object would definitely become rich. Of course, it could also be a hot potato. Therefore, they had to get rid of the object before the news spread. Otherwise, if a stronger force set their eyes on this area, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. Therefore, they had to obtain this object tonight. It seems that the Yang family has already made preparations. Not only did they gather all the elders, but they also prepared a yuan item formation for us. Chapter 239. The Shi family made a living by mining ores. They also had an ore vein under their hands, which was naturally of a higher grade than the Huang Yuan ores. However, while they had the financial resources, in terms of hardware, they were still lacking compared to the Yang family. This was because not only did the Yang family search for veins, they could also forge yuan tools. Not to mention how superb their skills were, just the fact that they could forge yuan weapons was already beyond the scope of ordinary people. Ordinary families simply couldn't compare to them. Any yuan tool could be sold at a very high price. Sometimes, it even depended on one's sales level. As for powerful yuan weapons, ordinary people naturally wouldn't be willing to sell them. They would choose to keep them for themselves. Sometimes, if they accidentally forged a powerful yuan weapon, the Yang family wouldn't sell it. Even the Yang family's team had an origin artifact for each of them. How many families could be so generous? Although the Yang family's overall strength is not as good as ours, the advantage of their yuan weapons makes up for the gap between us. It will be difficult to kill them, an elder of the Shi family said. Previously, they had a confrontation in the valley, but after this confrontation, they didn't have much of an advantage. On the contrary, they suffered a lot of losses. So now, they were all here to discuss countermeasures. That old monster Yang's strength has increased. Coupled with his family's yuan weapon, the fire dragon scissors, it won't be easy to kill him. The head of the Shi family, Shi Wuhan, said in a deep voice. There was a long burn scar on his right arm. It was precisely because he was sneak attacked at a critical moment when he was fighting with the head of the Yang family that this scar appeared. It was indeed difficult to succeed in a frontal attack. Patriarch, I have someone I can recommend to you. If you're interested, perhaps you can meet him. The person sitting at the bottom of the table raised his head and said. This person was Shi Wuhan's son, Shi Lei. He brought his son to the elder group for a meeting to focus on training him. In Shi Wuhan's generation, the Shi family only had this one sole heir. So, Shi Lei was also focused on training. Oh. Shi Lei, do you have anyone you can recommend? Shi Wuhan suddenly became curious. His son's ability to do things was also very strong. Many things that couldn't be settled were quickly settled by Shi Lei. Therefore, Shi Wuhan was very optimistic about Shi Lei. Other than the fact that his strength had yet to catch up, he was already able to hold his own in all other aspects. Hee, greetings to Shi clan head. Outside the tent, a person walked in. He wore a black robe and a black hat. Most importantly, his left sleeve was empty. Was he a one-armed man? Seeing the person who walked in, the elders of the Shi family immediately began to recall what was going on in their minds. Who was this one-armed man in front of him? Who are you? Shi Wuhan looked at the newcomer and felt a chill run down his spine. This person's background was definitely not simple. It wouldn't be so easy to deal with him. Maybe he was a poisonous snake that had been lured into the Shi family. Who I am is not important. What's important is that I can give you what you want. The one-armed man said slowly. His voice was a little hoarse and no emotions could be heard. It seemed that he was struggling fiercely. It seemed that he was deliberately suppressing himself. It also seemed that he had experienced something, which caused his throat to be so hoarse. Ridiculous. Our Shi family doesn't deal with nameless people. If you don't want to report your name, then please leave. The great elder of the Shi family said slowly with arrogance in his eyes. Since he had come to find them and wanted to hide his identity, it was too ridiculous. Therefore, he naturally had to take him down a notch. Otherwise, he would think that he was the one in charge of the Shi family's tent. The one-armed man's gaze turned cold. Seeing that Shi Wuhan was also expressionless, he admitted to the great elder's words. This kind of show of strength often happened. It was the great elder and the clan head who cooperated well. Good. You should be able to recognize this token. The one-armed man took out a token. There were only 2 words engraved on the token. Qingyuan. But when they saw the token, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Qingyuan Villa. You are from Qingyuan Villa. Many of the elders of the Shi family exclaimed. They never thought that the one-armed man in front of them would have such a strong background. The people of Qingyuan Villa were not simple. Especially recently, there had been a lot of discussion about Qingyuan Villa. That made him even more fearful. Shi Wuhan knew that things were not good. Qingyuan Villa had come uninvited. It was obvious that they had their eyes on them. The fate of the Shi family was not clear. Ha, clan head, don't worry. We can help you secretly. We won't show ourselves. We'll take that meteorite from outer space. In return, we can help you get rid of the Yang family. The one-armed man said. Hearing that the one-armed man had come with a token in his hand, he dared to directly ask for the meteorite that they had worked so hard to get. The elders of the Shi family all had extremely unfriendly expressions. Shirley, your friend seems a little tired. Ask him to go back to Kingstown to rest. Our Shi family will take care of all the expenses. The head elder of the Shi family said slowly. Although his words were extremely polite, the meaning was already very obvious. What he meant was that he was a little tired now and was talking nonsense. Why not just leave? Otherwise, if things turned sour, both sides would not have an easy time. Hearing the head elder's words, the one-armed man's gaze changed. When he looked at the head elder of the Shi family again, the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. I think you talk too much. As soon as he finished speaking, a whistling sound rang out. Before the head elder and the others could react, they saw a long spear piercing towards them. Chi! The long spear pierced in from outside the tent and instantly pierced through the head elder's body. The head elder spat out a mouthful of blood on the table. His head also fell on the table with a bang. His eyes were wide open as he looked in the direction of Shi Wuhan. Shi Wuhan was also enraged. He actually dared to kill his Shi family's great elder right in front of him. This was too arrogant. This was practically stepping on the head of the Shi family. But just as Shirley was about to stand up, then, he saw the one-armed man take out an item. When he saw the item appear in front of his eyes, Shi Wuhan's eyes were filled with shock. This is, Ice Demon Stone. In this way, the fire dragon scissors of the Yang family are just trash. The one-armed man held a sparkling and translucent stone in his hand. This stone exuded a demonic aura. It was as if there was a crystal soul within it, constantly tempting and attracting people. Have you thought it through? The Shi family is not the only one who can destroy the Yang family. I just want to give you a chance. The one-armed man said slowly. His tone was filled with tyrannical and threatening murderous intent. If the Shi family didn't agree, they wouldn't let the people in the tent walk out alive. After all, they had already seen the token. In order to ensure the confidentiality of this matter, they naturally couldn't let these people walk out alive. The many elders of the Shi family were angry but did not dare to say anything. As for Shi Wuhan, he looked at the ice demon stone on the table. The anger in his eyes gradually turned into madness. If you can really destroy the Yang family, there is no harm in cooperating with you. Chapter 240. Whether it was exterminating the Yang family or obtaining the meteorite, it was all for the sake of making money. If they obtained the meteorite, it would be very troublesome. After all, it was very difficult to obtain it without a certain level of skill. It was impossible to protect it at all. He could only act quickly so that he wouldn't draw fire to himself. On the contrary, if he could directly exterminate the Yang family during this process, then he could directly transfer the item to Qingyuan Manor. That would definitely be a very profitable thing. After all, obtaining the meteorite might not be a guaranteed profit. However, exterminating the Yang family and acquiring all the properties under the Yang family would be a guaranteed profit for the Shi family. Moreover, they would directly eliminate a competitor. Under the current trend of the general environment, it was a world where the big fish ate the small fish. There were too many forces in the new generation now. Once they got support, they could easily rise up. After that, they would be able to get a lot of opportunities. The old and the new were changing too fast. If they couldn't grow quickly, it would be very difficult to maintain a steady pace. If you don't want to kill, it doesn't mean that others don't want to kill you. This was an extremely real and cruel situation. One had to have enough power. Moreover, one had to act before others. Seeing that Shi Wuhan had agreed, the one-armed man smiled coldly. Then, he waved his hand. Outside the tent, a large number of footsteps could be heard rapidly retreating. It was only at this moment that they realized that the Shi family's camp had been surrounded by them. If they hadn't agreed earlier, the first elder wouldn't have been the only one who would have fallen. It was too terrifying. Life and death were just a matter of a thought. Tomorrow morning, we will attack. We will take the opportunity to seize the meteorite. In addition, I wish you all the best in exterminating the Yang family. Rest well tonight. After the one-armed man finished speaking, he turned around and left the Shi family's camp. At this moment, the many elders of the Shi family heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the cold corpse of the first elder, some of them rejoiced, some of them were worried, and some of them were thinking, since the first elder was already the first elder, when would it be their turn to ascend to the first elder's position? All sorts of thoughts popped up in their minds, but Shi Lei didn't seem to care at all as he pushed the first elder's corpse to the side. Congratulations, father, for swallowing the Yang family. In the future, our Shi family will be the undisputed #1 family in Lower Connecticut City. Shi Lei said. At this moment, Shi Wuhan was also immersed in the joy of the cold demon stone in his hand. As a yuan weapon, the cold demon stone's power was above the fire dragon shears. The fire serpent shears could be considered as an elementary grade 3 yuan weapon. The cold demon stone in his hand was equivalent to a tier 3 middle stage yuan tool. Regardless of its grade or power, it had an extremely overwhelming effect on him. Shi Wuhan put away the ice demon stone and glanced at Shi Lei. Shi Lei was still young, so he didn't really understand the risks involved. He only saw the benefits before him. In the future, even if they were able to swallow up the Yang family, as long as they didn't die, they would still have to listen to the orders of Qingyuan Manor. It was equivalent to standing on the same side as Qingyuan Villa. Since they were standing on the same boat, they naturally had to live with honor and disgrace. So much so that when necessary, the Qingyuan Villa would sacrifice those families. After all, in the eyes of the Qingyuan Villa, those families were chess pieces that could be used. The reason why the Qingyuan Villa refused to reveal their true identities and were only secretly assisting them was so that they could leave behind a weakness that could be used against them. Everyone go and rest. We will attack tomorrow. Our goal is to kill Yang Yan. Shi Wuhan said. This Yang Yan was the head of the Yang family. At the moment, in the Yang family's camp. It was only a mountain away from the Shi family's camp. Both sides were vigilant against each other. After all, this was the wilderness. Even if the other party killed all of them, they could cover up all traces and the city lord mansion wouldn't say anything. Currently, the city lord mansion couldn't even manage all the big and small matters in the city. Why would they care about people who came to the wilderness to seek death? Once they left the city, it would have nothing to do with them. Therefore, they had to be fully alert and keep a close eye on the other party, not allowing the other party to take advantage of them. Previously, these two families had fought each other and went through a bitter battle. The reason for the battle was because of the problem of seizing the entrance. There was only one entrance near the meteorite. However, both sides were stubbornly clinging onto this entrance and weren't willing to give in easily. Naturally, it was a battle. How are our casualties? Yang Yan asked. This time, he had brought a lot of his family's strength. However, the other party had also come out in full force. It seemed that they had already planned to kill them here. Fortunately, Yang Yan brought out the fire dragon shears. Otherwise, in the battle this afternoon, they would have suffered heavy losses down there. 2 of our brothers have died. Elder Yang He's injuries are rather serious. As for the others, they're fine. Standing beside Yang Yan was his eldest son, Yang Feihong. Yang Feihong was resourceful and could see the big picture. He was able to control the whole situation. However, his only flaw was that when Yang Feihong did things, he would do things by hook or by crook. Some of them were excessive, some of them were absolute. Second son, Yang Feiyu. In this Yang family, it could be said that he was brave and fierce. He also liked to cultivate and didn't like to manage the family's affairs. Therefore, most of the matters were left to Yang Feihong. Yang Feiyu was also good at charging and breaking through the enemy lines. Although this was a little weak, it was still possible for him to obtain a position in the family after making contributions. In any case, it was better than doing some accounting behind people's backs, so people could see where his contributions were. Third son, Yang Hongyu. From this name, one could tell that it was casually given. Or rather, it could be said that for this third son, he had poured more effort into it. If he could combine the strengths of these two sons, it would naturally be a good thing. Why hasn't our supply line arrived yet? In addition to bringing helpers, it was also necessary to bring some healing supplies. These crucial things might not be fully prepared when they left in a hurry. Who would have known that they would suddenly have to go out and fight? Third brother is in charge of this matter. Logically speaking, he should have arrived already. We can't rule out the possibility of an ambush on the way. Yang Feihong said. This Yang Hongyu was just a concubine's son. His mother's side wasn't strong enough, so he couldn't achieve anything. Therefore, he could only do odd jobs. Moreover, this Yang Hongyu was relatively young. However, as a person who was confident and prepared, Yang Feihong wouldn't easily ignore a person with potential. However, on the surface, he still needed to take care of this person. Ambush? If we suffer heavy losses here because the supply line didn't arrive, who will bear the responsibility? This disappointing thing. Yang Yan was a little angry. He slapped the table and was very dissatisfied with Yang Hongyu's performance. At this moment, a guard came to pass a message. Family head, third young master is here. Let him in. Yang Yan shouted in a low voice. At this moment, Yang Yan was obviously angry. If he didn't do his job well, it would be fine. However, at such a critical moment, how serious the consequences would be. Could one imagine? Li Zhongjiu and Yang Hongyu entered the Yang family's camp. Yang Hongyu first asked Steward Niu to arrange a place for Li Zhongjiu and the girl to rest. Originally, Steward Niu was very disdainful of Li Zhongjiu and looked down on him. However, later on, Li Zhongjiu showed his invincible power, which indeed left a deep impression on him. At the end, his viciousness, no, it wasn't viciousness. It was more like a dominating feeling. Most importantly, in the process of their following journey, they also found the body of the person who was shot dead by Li Zhongjiu with an arrow. It was confirmed by the black bear that this person was the first fierce general under the multi-faced fox. Although his head was shot, his identity tag was not taken away. It was obvious that they retreated in a hurry. At this moment, only then did Steward Niu understand that this Li Zhongjiu was clearly a real god. Father called me. I'll go. Protector, you can rest here for a while. Go ahead. Li Zhongjiu said. Having food, drink, and sleep was much better than sleeping alone in the wild. At least there were no mosquitoes in the tent. Chapter 241. The obsidian flame is indeed able to kill without leaving any traces behind. Such a domineering power is indeed refreshing. Li Zhongjiu loved this kind of power the most. Bloody? Li Zhongjiu was not a violent person. It was just that Li Zhongjiu preferred to be more direct. Usually, when he killed someone directly, the process would be more violent and bloody. However, this did not mean that Li Zhongjiu liked it that way. Since Li Changjiang is in the vicinity, I think he will also try to seize the meteorite. This thing is mine. Although Li Zongjiu had yet to see a meteorite from outer space, he had heard of it. Around the meteorite, there was a circle of exotic beasts. Every night, they would become unusually active, so they couldn't get close to the meteorite at night. Moreover, during this half a day, the strength of these strange beasts would decrease, which gave them an opportunity to attack the meteorite. Otherwise, just the exotic beasts brought by the meteorite would be enough to devour them completely. Several bounty mercenary teams wanted to take the meteorite for themselves. They tried several times, but in the end, they could not escape and were devoured by the exotic beasts. Such an outcome was extremely tragic. Therefore, after sacrificing his life, he concluded a rule for his descendants. Only during the day would it be the most effective time and also the time when the risk was the lowest. However, there was only one passage to enter, so he had to seize the opportunity. Li Zongjiu did not care about what happened in the Yang family's camp. After all, he was already here. Tomorrow, he would take away the meteorite and then kill Li Changjiang. He would go directly to the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor. He would not delay anything else. Li Zongjiu immediately began to cultivate his white god Fu. The yuan power in his body continued to condense. After being tempered by the obsidian flame, his mental energy had also become an additional attribute. I wonder what kind of attribute this black dragon soul has. Li Zongjiu thought to himself. However, the black dragon soul was still in an extremely weak state. It had to recover a certain amount of strength before it could be upgraded. Furthermore, Li Zongjiu had also observed for a while. This darkness dragon soul seemed to be impervious to everything. Ordinary yuan power had no effect on this darkness dragon soul. If he wanted to awaken this darkness dragon soul and make it stronger, he would need to find something with yuan power of darkness. Only by directly absorbing the darkness origin energy would the darkness dragon soul become even more powerful. This black dragon soul is really arrogant. However, Li Zongjiu also knew that the black dragon soul was definitely not simple. Otherwise, the 4 dragon souls that had transmigrated with him were all supreme being experts in his previous life. However, until now, only the black dragon soul had its own consciousness. Although it was not strong, it still proved that it was different from the rest. If not for Li Zongjiu's strength, the one who would have died would have been Li Zongjiu. The awakening of the black dragon soul was equivalent to waking up from a dream and discovering that one had returned to 3,000 years ago. It was the same. However, Li Zongjiu had transmigrated back because Li Zongjiu's soul had awakened. From this point, one could tell how powerful the black dragon soul was. However, if I want to strengthen my cultivation, I can only look for dark yuan power stones and absorb them. Under normal circumstances, it is very difficult to find a place with dark yuan power. Li Zongjiu had traveled all over the continent and knew that there were places with dark yuan power. However, those places were too far away for the current Li Zongjiu. Moreover, the difference in cultivation level was too great. If Li Zongjiu went to those places, the most direct outcome would be death. If his luck was bad, his soul would be extracted and he would become a slave of those dark beings. This was not something that was written in novels. Instead, it was something that would truly trap you and make you unable to reincarnate. The only way to do so was to commit suicide. In fact, one would not even be able to commit suicide. The soul control technique that had controlled Luo Sha and the others was obtained by Li Zongjiu from such a place. This was only the tip of the iceberg. There were even more powerful characters hidden within. Therefore, if the current Li Zongjiu went to such a place, it would be equivalent to courting death. It was a quiet night and the surroundings were very peaceful. Yang Yan originally thought that the bastards of the Shi family would launch a sneak attack in the middle of the night. He specially ordered them to be more vigilant and did not dare to sleep too deeply. He only did some recuperation. But from the looks of it now, the Shi family must have a bigger conspiracy. Father, this is our fog snow pill sex protector Changgu. Yang Hongyu, Yang Yan, and the rest walked over. When they saw Li Zongjiu walking out, they immediately introduced him. Originally, when Yang Yan saw Li Zongjiu's youthful appearance, he also had doubts about Li Zongjiu's strength. Was Li Zongjiu really that powerful? However, last night, housekeeper Niu had reported some things to him. In addition, He Xiong patted his chest and affirmed that Li Zongjiu was really a very capable person. Yang Yan had seen some young geniuses before. He knew how terrifying some young geniuses could be. Therefore, he did not dare to underestimate Li Zongjiu. Greetings, Protector Li. I'm Yang Hongyu's father. Thank you for saving Yang Hongyu's life yesterday. I'm extremely grateful. After we're done here, I'd like to invite Protector Li to the Yang family for a few drinks. It's nothing. Since the Yang family head is here, I would like to ask for a favor. Li Zongjiu clasped his hands and said. Yang Yan seemed to be giving him face. Li Zongjiu did not put on airs and sincerely asked for a favor. This was a very rare thing. Think about it, if a former supreme being asked you to do something for him, that would mean that he thought highly of you. Otherwise, he would have directly ordered you to do it. Please speak, Protector. Yang Yan said with a smile. Indeed, he had a favor to ask of the Yang family. Otherwise, why would Li Zongjiu be so kind as to help Yang Hongyu? Moreover, he happened to meet him in the Heavenly Rain Inn. He was obviously holding back. I am looking for this person. He is near the Wolf Fang mountain range. Li Zongjiu said as he took out the portrait given by the Heavenly Rain Inn. He opened it and presented it to Yang Yan and the rest. Yang Yan took the portrait. The texture of the paper was very good. Obviously, it was a high-level intelligence report from the Heavenly Rain Inn. Anyone who could get this report was not an ordinary person. He looked carefully at the portrait of Li Changjiang. Yang Yan frowned. He did not have any impression of this person. Father, the elders are ready. At this moment, a handsome young man walked over. He was wearing armor and holding a long spear. His appearance was very similar to Yang Yan's. This person was Yang Yan's second son, Yang Feiyu. Before returning to the family, he had gone through 3 years of training in the border army when he was young. Therefore, he had the aura of a tiger and a wolf. Oh, okay. Don't worry, Protector Li. If this person appears, the Yang family will inform you. At this moment, we have important matters to attend to. Yang Hongyu returned the scroll to Li Zongjiu and gave a beautiful reply. Li Zongjiu did not expect to get an answer so quickly. Let's go. I want to see what this meteorite looks like. Chapter 242. Yang Hongyu was also by Li Zongjiu's side. Although there was no clear indication that Li Zongjiu was here to help, at the very least, he was on their side and not the enemy's. It was always good to have an extra helper by his side. When the Yang family members arrived at the pass, they saw the Shi family members marching towards them in a grandiose manner. Apart from them, there was another group of people who quietly walked out from the forest at the side after seeing the Shi family. This group of people was made up of cultivators from Lower Kong City or the surrounding areas who had heard the news and came over. Although there were 1 or 2 who were slightly famous, most of their strength was only so and not worth mentioning at all. Therefore, the Yang family and the Shi family did not take them to heart. There were 3 other clans in Lower Kingstown. Perhaps they were tied down by other matters. Although some people came to watch the show or to inquire about some information, in fact, they didn't really participate in this competition. It could be seen that the Shi family and the Yang family not only wanted to fight for the meteorite, but also wanted to have a real decisive battle. Perhaps after today, the disparity in strength between the 2 families would be even greater. The winner would be the king and the loser would be the bandit. Yang Yan, you'd better leave quickly today and I can let you live. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Shi Wuhan walked out and said to Yang Yan. Don't fucking talk nonsense. Come if you have the guts. Before Yang Yan could say anything, Yang Feiyu, who was standing beside him, had already stepped forward and cursed loudly. Yang Feiyu, do you think you are very strong? You are not the only one who has entered the Yuan general realm in Lower Kong City. Shi Lei also stood out and said. Neither was willing to give an inch. Moreover, the competition between these young people was very intense. Why don't the three of you come together? Shi Lei said, dealing a blow to the morale of the Yang family. The Shi family immediately burst into laughter. Yang Feiyu was also furious. I alone am enough to trample you under my feet. Then let's have a try. Seeing that Yang Feiyu was about to attack, Yang Yan raised his hand, indicating for Yang Feiyu to step back. It wasn't a good thing to be enraged by the other party. Yesterday, the Shi family killed 2 members of the Yang family. If you don't hand over 20 lives today, how can the Yang family survive in Lower Connecticut in the future? Yang Yan bellowed. The experts of the Yang family immediately lined up in a row. It was obvious that they were going to defend to the death. No matter what, they would not allow the Shi family to pass through. Ha, Yang Yan, do you really think that you can contend against me with just the fire dragon shears? Shi Wuhan also said in a deep voice. This battle was inevitable. They had to carve out a path of blood. Only then would they be able to come to an end today. Not to mention, the Yang family had lost a lot of people. This debt had to be settled clearly. I'm sorry, yes. Yang Yan roared as flames surged within his sleeves. 2 flames spun and twisted in front of him. They formed a scissor-like object. In front of Yang Yan, this object was filled with the majesty of a king. As it released its aura, it formed a terrifying wave that gradually spread out. Rumble. The Yang family's heirloom. Fire dragon shears. In the face of the threat from the Shi family, Yang Yan did not hold back and directly used his killing move. This was to tell the other party that he was this strong. If they had the ability to come up, then they had better be prepared to be killed. Yang Yan had already formed a battle formation. On the opposite side, Shi Wuhan also seemed to be silent for a while. Finally, Shi Wuhan whispered to the second elder of the Yang family beside him. Later, when Yang Yan's fire dragon shears is under my control, you guys will kill your way over. Yes, Patriarch. The terrifying thing about the fire dragon shears was that it was not used for single combat. Most of the time, it could be used to attack a group of people. Once it was locked on, it was very likely to directly kill a large number of people. It was because of the terrifying power of the fire dragon shears that the Shi family did not dare to swarm over. After all, everyone was facing the same power. Some people could withstand it. For example, the experts of the Yuan general realm and above could withstand it. However, there were some people who could not withstand it. If they couldn't block it, then they would only be reduced to ashes. Yesterday, it was also because Shi Wuhan had joined forces with the other elders to suppress them. Otherwise, they would not have been able to hold on until now. It was estimated that Yang Yan had already killed all the Shi family members yesterday. Li Zongjiu originally wanted to go in, but seeing that there were people all around and that there was only one entrance, he decided to wait here. He took a step back and hid. Mental energy spread out as he searched for Li Changjiang's figure. He did not know how Li Changjiang had changed. After leaving the Li family for so long, it was normal for there to be some changes to his body. However, his aura could not be changed. Therefore, Li Zongjiu used his mental energy to quickly find the hiding Li Changjiang as long as he was nearby. Shi Wuhan walked towards Yang Yan, who had used the fire dragon shears. Yang Yan, after today, your Yang family will be removed from Kingstown. Sigh. You don't have much ability, but you talk big. I want to see how you will walk out of Wolf Fang Valley. Yang Yan laughed disdainfully. Wasn't it just bragging? Who didn't know how to brag? You will know very soon. Shi Wuhan took out the Ice Demon Stone. The moment he activated his Yuan power, the Ice Demon Stone immediately emitted a ray of light. Boom! Above the Ice Demon Stone, an extremely cold energy suddenly emerged and rushed towards the Fire Serpent Scissors. Yang Yan was stunned. What kind of move was this? When he saw it clearly, he realized that the Fire Dragon shears in his hand had already been trapped by his opponent. Roar! The flames on the Fire Serpent Scissors' body were also restrained by a wave of cold air, and were forcibly trapped in place. My Fire Dragon shears. What kind of power is this? This sudden burst of power was like a water snake with the power of ice, entangling the flames on the Fire Flood Dragon Scissors. Ice Demon Stone. When Yang Yan saw the item in Shi Wuhan's hand, he was instantly shocked. The Fire Dragon shears were extremely powerful and specialized in fire attacks. However, the most fearful thing was the Ice Demon Stone. It was an item that specialized in cold energy attacks. Once it was trapped, there would be endless trouble. The Fire Dragon shears would be tightly bound. The opponent's level was even higher than the Fire Dragon shears. Do you think that only your Yang family has this Yuan weapon? My Shi family has it too. Shi Wuhan laughed loudly. Kill! Seeing this, the second elder of the Shi family waved his hand. The people behind him were already prepared and ready to attack the Yang family. The Yang family relied on the power of the Fire Dragon shears. Now that the Fire Dragon shears were restrained, there was naturally nothing to be afraid of. They could even free up more people to deal with the Yang family. Kill them all. Kill all these Shi family bastards. Suddenly, a great battle broke out. Elders against elders, disciples against disciples. Between each other, there were terrifying Yuan Qi fluctuations. There were close to 30 people on both sides. Among these 30 people, the lowest cultivation was at least grade 6 Yuan Master. It was not something that ordinary forces could withstand. Therefore, this round of attacks was quite fierce. When the rogue cultivators felt the terrifying fluctuations on the battlefield, they could not help but take 2 steps back. After all, the momentum of this battle was too terrifying. Oh my God, this is too scary. Just as the two families were fighting, they saw a group of people rushing towards the valley at high speed. The Yang family and the Shi family saw it, but the Shi family did not stop them. Instead, they helped them to block the Yang family who wanted to attack. Someone wants to fish in troubled waters. Feiyu, take some people to steal it. Yang Yan immediately shouted. Yang Feiyu immediately replied. Yes. Guards, follow me. Yang Feiyu was an expert at the general level. His level of cultivation was not something an ordinary person could withstand. Furthermore, he had a fire-tipped spear in his hand. It was very powerful. It was enough to intimidate everyone. Shi Lei, you go. Shi Wuhan roared. Most of the people were restraining each other here. There were also people who freed themselves and rushed towards the valley. As for Li Zongjiu, when the first group of people rushed into the valley, he had already moved. That was because he had already discovered his target. Chapter 243. Yang Feiyu led his men and rushed into the valley. There was a deep pit in the valley. Within the deep pit, there was a meteorite that came from outer space. The surrounding deep pit was the result of the meteorite's power when it fell from outer space. One could imagine that if a person were to stand under the meteorite, he would probably be vaporized by the high temperature of the meteorite before he could even touch the meteorite. Shi Lei, you bastard. Didn't you want to fight with your grandfather? Come if you have the guts. Yang Feiyu took the initiative to provoke Shi Lei as he roared at him. The distance between the two parties was not far. When Yang Feiyu rushed over, Shi Lei also turned his head to take a look. Idiot! Shi Lei did not fight with Yang Feiyu. Instead, he lured Yang Feiyu to an empty space and turned to face him. What a pity. Although your talent is not bad, it's a pity that you will die in my hands today. I really want to know how it feels to kill a genius. Shirley's lips curled into a cruel smile. Yang Feiyu disdainfully said, with just you? I want to see what you can use to block my fire-tipped spear. As he spoke, Yang Feiyu gently shook the fire-tipped spear in his hand. Immediately, a ring of fire curled up in front of him. Boom! Facing the fire-tipped spear in Yang Feiyu's hand, Shirley was naturally afraid. However, the one who was going to deal with Yang Feiyu today was not him. Shirley slightly raised his head and looked at the sky. Yang Feiyu also raised his head and sensed that there was a figure that was rapidly falling from above. Boom! As the terrifying power descended, Yang Feiyu was not afraid as he thrust the fire-tipped spear in his hand forward. However, his long spear was easily swept away by the other party's sleeves, and he kept it. At the same time, a palm was thrown out. Yang Feiyu only had time to circulate the yuan power in his body to block the attack. Bang! Yang Feiyu's entire body was sent flying and landed on the ground. The strength of this palm was extremely domineering. Cough cough, who are you? Yang Feiyu hurriedly got up, but he saw that there was an expert beside Shirley. In addition, there were also some black-robed people who landed in the surroundings one after another, heavily surrounding Shirley's personal guards. The other party's aura was clearly above Yang Feiyu's. Yang Feiyu immediately realized that the current situation was not good and immediately growled. Retreat! We can't retreat. Kill them all. The one-armed man said indifferently. He waved his hand casually, and his subordinates immediately rushed out and surrounded Yang Feiyu. The personal guards of the Yang family also suffered heavy losses in an instant. In just the initial exchange of blows, many of them fell to the ground. Bang! Bang! Young master, run! Crack! A Yang family guard fell to the ground with a single slash. He didn't even have time to reflect before he was killed right in front of his eyes. Yang Feiyu wanted to escape, but the one-armed black-robed man once again attacked with the fire-tipped spear in his hand. He rolled it up in his sleeves and flung it towards Yang Feiyu. Boom! The spear flew over, enough to penetrate Yang Feiyu's body. Yang Feiyu was also lying on the ground, looking at the fire-tipped spear in front of him in shock. Just as it was about to pierce his chest, a figure blocked in front of him and easily caught the fire-tipped spear as if it was picking it up. When everyone saw this extra figure, they were all puzzled. The only person present felt that many emotions were concentrated on this person. When he saw the person in front of him, he couldn't help but want to trample him under his feet and ruthlessly ravage him. He wanted to use the cruelest torture in the world on this person's body repeatedly. Hatred to the bone was this deep and heavy. Li. Zong. Jiu. The black-robed man's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His broken hand and empty sleeves were also fluttering in the absence of wind, as if they were fluctuating along with the black-robed man's aura. The strength of the golden body, which had been tempered after experiencing countless pain, had already reached an extremely tough state. It would not collapse under any circumstances. However, when it saw the enemy in front of it, its steel-like heart began to tremble crazily at this moment. I've been looking for you so painstakingly. He took off the hat. Li Changjiang revealed his face. At this moment, Li Changjiang's face seemed to be covered with black poisonous lines. These were the blood vessels that had been tempered. To be able to appear in such a state, it meant that Li Changjiang seemed to have been subjected to some unknown secret technique before this. Therefore, his strength could advance by leaps and bounds and reach such a level. The current Li Changjiang's cultivation had already entered the Yuan general realm. At the very least, it was around grade 3. Li Zongjiu knew quite a lot about this kind of method of forcibly increasing one's strength and advancing one's cultivation by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. It wasn't considered rare, but generally speaking, it wouldn't have a good ending. It's really you. Li Zongjiu looked at Li Changjiang and said calmly. Compared to his initial anger, Li Zongjiu was now able to see things in a more correct way. Now, there was no need to be angry or struggle. One must know that the guy in front of him was nothing to Li Zongjiu. Moreover, in this life, he wouldn't have the chance to harm the Li family. There was another culprit behind Li Changjiang's actions. Although Li Changjiang was just a chess piece, and in the eyes of Qingyuan Villa, the small Li family wasn't even worth mentioning, they didn't even care about it. However, they had provoked someone they shouldn't have. Perhaps this was fate. They were destined to be completely trampled by Li Zongjiu. This was something that Li Zongjiu had never doubted. Li Zongjiu. Yang Feiyu, who was lying on the ground, heard this name and looked at Li Zongjiu. He seemed to be a protector brought by his third brother. At first, he didn't pay much attention to him. However, he didn't expect that Li Zongjiu's strength wasn't weak. Just now, Li Zongjiu directly saved his life. Just this point alone made Yang Feiyu extremely grateful to Li Zongjiu. Shirlei also looked at Li Zongjiu in front of him. Li Zongjiu looked so young, but he actually dared to stand out. He hoped that he wasn't a useless fool. However, now it seemed that even the black-robed man from Qingyuan Villa was extremely afraid of Li Zongjiu. It seemed that Li Zongjiu's strength wasn't weak. What are you waiting for? Kill Yang Feiyu for me. Shirlei was naturally able to tell that this was the enmity between the black-robed man and Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu was naturally delayed by the black-robed man, and Yang Feiyu naturally had to take advantage of this good opportunity to act. Immediately, three Shi family experts moved towards Yang Feiyu. Li Zongjiu also gently moved the fire-tipped spear in his hand. Suddenly, a terrifying heat spread out from the fire-tipped spear. Boom! The three Shi family experts were instantly sucked in by the spear qi released by Li Zongjiu. Bang! Bang! Their bodies fell to the ground. After being engulfed by the heat, their bodies were burned red. The three experts of the 6th grade Yuan Master Realm were directly obliterated. Li Changjiang, not only will I kill you, but I will also kill everyone who supports you, including your companions and the forces behind you. Li Zongjiu pointed the spear in his hand at Li Changjiang. The meaning of these words was very obvious. Shirlei must also die. Don't talk nonsense. Set up the Black Zen Buddha killing formation. Li Zongjiu was no longer angry. Since the enemy was standing in front of him, there was nothing to be angry about. After capturing him, there would naturally be opportunities to torture Li Zongjiu. Originally, after escaping from Luoxia City, he had been looking for an opportunity to kill his way back. However, he hadn't found a suitable opportunity. Now that Li Zongjiu had taken the initiative to come to him, Li Changjiang was naturally overjoyed. Black Zen Buddha killing formation. Immediately, the 7 black-robed men that Li Changjiang brought with him landed around Li Zongjiu. Brother, be careful. This Black Zen Buddha killing formation seems to be the Black Zen sect's evil killing formation. Yang Feiyu couldn't help but say. After all, Li Zongjiu had appeared to save him. No matter what, they were now on the same boat. Chapter 244. Li Zongjiu did not take Yang Feiyu's words to heart. What evil killing formation? What Li Zongjiu had experienced in his previous life was not something that people of your level could imagine. If that terrifying power were to be gathered together, it could even be an existence that could destroy the world. To Li Zongjiu, these child-level array formations were really not worth mentioning. Child's play. Li Zongjiu smiled disdainfully. The fire-tipped spear in his hand spun easily and immediately rushed forward with a terrifying aura. There were still people around him. A few experts from the Black Zen sect had just condensed their Yuan Qi and were about to set up a formation with the people around them. But in the next second, they saw Li Zongjiu rush out. Boom! The fire-tipped spear was surrounded by intense fire yuan qi and instantly swallowed the people in front of him. Li Zongjiu's spear suddenly pierced the opponent's body. The violent flame energy directly swallowed the people in front of him. What? Black Zen finger. Seeing that they did not have the chance to set up the formation and Li Zongjiu suddenly appeared in front of them, the people at the side were shocked. They immediately changed their tactics and pointed at Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu did not care about the power gathered on the opponent's finger and directly punched out. Crack. This punch instantly broke the opponent's finger. Ah! The person retracted his hand. His strongest finger was directly destroyed by the opponent. Such a cruel method was unbearable. The fire-tipped spear swept out again and directly sent the two people in front of him flying. Eat my spear. A vigorous essence force was released, and a figure leaped out, thrusting his spear towards Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu's speed was even faster than his. Facing this spear that had suddenly appeared, his body took a small step back and the fire-tipped spear was like a spring, directly rushing forward with a boom. Boom! The Black Zen sect expert who suddenly attacked reacted quickly. He retracted his spear and blocked in front of him, blocking Li Zongjiu's terrifying yuan qi. A mere first-grade yuan general, you want to, when this person blocked this move, he had already probed Li Zongjiu's strength. He originally wanted to mock Li Zongjiu, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. He didn't know when Li Zongjiu had once again stabbed out with his spear, and it was this spear that had pierced through his heart. Boom! Fire yuan qi instantly spread out and burned the person's body clean. In the blink of an eye, 4 people. Let's go together. The remaining 3 people also understood that Li Zongjiu was strong and could not give him a chance to breathe. Especially now that he had the upper hand, they had a chance to force him to reveal his weakness. Yang Feiyu was dumbfounded as he watched Li Zongjiu's performance. It had only been a few seconds from start to finish. In total, it did not exceed 30 seconds, and he had already killed 4 people in a row. The strength of these 4 people was not simple. The weakest was at the Yuan general level. These experts from the Black Zen sect were all at the Yuan general level. They thought that they were dead for sure. However, Li Zongjiu suddenly appeared like a god of death, slaughtering everyone in this place. It was incomparably shocking to see. Shi Lei knew the strength of these people. Especially the person with the spear. It was the person who stabbed their great elder to death last night. Now, with this person's strength, he could not even last 2 moves in front of Li Zongjiu. By the second move, he was already dead. Where did this monster come from? When did the Yang family invite such an expert? Suddenly, Shi Lei thought of something. Since now was the time for Li Zongjiu and the black-robed man to settle their grudges, then what was he doing here? He immediately gave his subordinates a look. His subordinates immediately understood and quietly retreated towards the meteorite in front of them. If they could kill the Yang family and obtain the meteorite, then it would be killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, truly a great harvest. The 3 people who rushed up from behind did not last long. Li Changjiang saw 3 heads fly up in an orderly manner. Although he already knew that Li Zongjiu's strength was a little strange, and that Li Zongjiu seemed to have obtained some terrifying inheritance, the speed of his strength was almost amazing. How old was he to be able to kill people like flies at such a young age? Even this Yuan general level expert was nothing in front of Li Zongjiu. Gulyalu. 3 heads rolled on the ground. One of the heads also fell at Li Changjiang's feet. Li Changjiang kicked the head away. At the same time, he clasped his palms together and made a big circle in front of him, finally landing on his body. Li Changjiang stared at Li Zongjiu in front of him. At this moment, that terrifying power was also surging from his body. Everything I have today is thanks to you. Li Zongjiu, become my nourishment. Black Buddha Technique, 6-Armed Demon Buddha. From Li Changjiang's back, a few bones suddenly broke through the skin and flesh of his body, and a few arms grew out like a spider. When these arms spread out, a terrifying aura also began to brew. When Li Zongjiu saw this scene, he suddenly came to a realization. Wasn't this the unique method of the Qingyuan Villa? Soul Beast Fusion Technique. Directly fusing the key parts of these talented soul beasts into the body of the cultivator. After being washed and glued by some very strong medicine, it finally became this state. You're neither a human nor a ghost. Qingyuan Villa was destined to be destroyed from the beginning. Li Zongjiu couldn't help but shake his head and say. Obviously, he was extremely disdainful of such a despicable method. At the same time, he sympathized with Li Changjiang in front of him. In order to obtain power, he actually turned himself into something that was neither a human nor a ghost. How pitiful. Li Zongjiu's usual way of dealing with such pitiful people was to be very merciful and generously send them to hell. In their next life, if they still remembered, they could also seek revenge from him. Die. Li Zongjiu saw Li Changjiang carrying his 6 legs to kill him. The speed of these 6 legs was also very fast. Li Zongjiu's fire-tipped spear was also constantly colliding with the other party. Ding ding ding. The long spear vibrated. Suddenly, the other party and 2 bones suddenly pierced out. Li Zongjiu's hand loosened, and the fire-tipped spear in his hand was directly snatched away by the other party. Bang! The 2 bones pierced the ground and directly propped up Li Changjiang's body. After his body rose up, 2 more bones protruded out. They directly clamped Li Zongjiu up. Li Zongjiu, you didn't expect this, right? Trash will always be trash. With this low roar, a foul stench came out of his mouth. Li Zongjiu's face didn't have the slightest trace of panic. Instead, he looked indifferently at the person in front of him who had fallen into madness. Whoosh! 2 more bones suddenly attacked, wanting to directly penetrate Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu didn't hesitate to hit Li Changjiang's head with his palm. Bang! Li Changjiang only felt as if he was ruthlessly smashed by tens of thousands of tons of rocks. His whole body couldn't withstand it, and his bone-like hands couldn't help but loosen. Li Zongjiu's body fell to the ground. He twisted his body a little. The hardness of these bones was not bad, but it still hurt a little from being clamped. Li Changjiang, who was a little dazed by Li Zongjiu's palm, also swayed his body. He felt a little incredulous. How is it possible? My body has long been indestructible. Li Changjiang felt as if his body was almost broken. The power of Li Zongjiu's palm just now was really terrifying. If his body hadn't been tempered, it would have even been tempered into a golden body. However, after being hit by Li Zongjiu just now, he only felt as if his head was about to explode. Chapter 245. When Li Changjiang finally regained his senses, he saw Li Zongjiu standing in front of him. At this moment, Li Zongjiu's body was intact, and there was a trace of contempt and mockery on his face. Seeing this, Li Changjiang was even more furious. What right did this junior have to laugh at him? How dare you be so presumptuous in front of me? I want you dead. I am the master of the Li family. All of you are trash. Die. Li Changjiang's stomach suddenly burst open, and something could be seen coming out of Li Changjiang's body. It looked extremely terrifying. It seems that your secret technique has not been completely successful. Li Zongjiu looked at Li Changjiang and said. The so-called self enmeshed in a cocoon was what Li Changjiang was like. This was because the power that Li Changjiang had fused with had exceeded the limit that he could bear. This caused Li Changjiang to be unable to control and suppress the power in his body when he was attacked from the outside. This resulted in the current situation. The thing that broke out of Li Changjiang's body was an ugly spider. The bones on Li Changjiang's back were the spider's legs. However, Li Changjiang had already been devoured by the spider and was completely swallowed up. No, Li Changjiang knelt on the ground. His entire body no longer existed. It was directly devoured by the spider. Many parts of its body were also wriggling. This pitch-black King Kong spider also woke up and stared at Li Zongjiu in front of it. Although it did not know what was going on, it seemed that Li Changjiang had already died. How could he die so easily? Li Zongjiu was also a little surprised. He hadn't even made a move yet, but this guy had already died. That guy didn't give him any face at all. This battle couldn't be considered a satisfying one at all. Although I don't know what you are, you can forget about living. Li Zongjiu looked at the spider in front of him and said indifferently. The King Kong spider felt Li Zongjiu's hostility and murderous aura and growled. However, after weighing the pros and cons, the King Kong spider actually rushed away with a swoosh. Its 6 legs were also constantly shaking, trying to escape. In the process of the King Kong spider running away, Li Zongjiu flicked his finger and a flame fell on the King Kong spider's back. Boom! The King Kong spider's back immediately burned with a raging flame. Therefore, the King Kong spider was running with a pile of flames on its back. Looking at the burning appearance of the flame was really unexpected and funny. Almost 100 meters away, it suddenly heard a loud bang. The King Kong spider was directly smashed into pieces. This was a method of the Black King Kong spider's back. When this thing rushed out, Li Zongjiu could control its power. After a period of time, it would automatically produce a violent explosion. It's an easy death for you. Li Zongjiu took the scroll in his hand and then directly burned it with the Black King Kong spider. Yang Feiyu, on the other hand, stared blankly at the scene before him. What exactly did he experience today? First, a man grew spider legs, then this man turned into a spider, and most importantly, Li Zongjiu not only killed them easily, but at the same time, his palm could also emit a terrifying flame. The world of these people was too scary. However, no matter what, Yang Feiyu managed to keep his life. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to see these things. He wouldn't have known that the world was so vast and that so many strange things had appeared. It was truly shocking. Not good, that's the meteorite. Yang Feiyu suddenly remembered that the meteorite was the main target. He didn't know where Shirley and the others had gone. Obviously, they had quietly left during the battle just now in order to get the meteorite. If Shirley got there first and returned to Xiaokang City, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to snatch it back. Li Zongjiu naturally could not forget this extremely important matter. In fact, when Li Zongjiu approached the meteorite, he already knew what it was. Therefore, Li Zongjiu was not flustered at all. I didn't expect that guy's boundless stone was actually extracted from it. Li Zongjiu came to a realization. Shirley and the rest had already successfully stored the meteorite into their storage rings, and the group was rushing towards the direction of Lower Kong City. Yang Yan and the others were also ruthlessly suppressed in the valley. Now, no one was chasing after Shirley. However, it would not be so easy to take the treasure away from Li Zongjiu. Boom! Li Zongjiu's entire body rose from the ground. After stepping into the Yuan general realm, Li Zongjiu's degree of control over Yuan power was already able to achieve the effect of flight. Although he could not fly too far this time, he had already surpassed many people. Powerful Yuan power burst forth from his feet, carrying Li Zongjiu's body into the air as he chased after Shirley. The power that erupted from Li Zongjiu in an instant was almost too much for Yang Feiyu to react. What? He can fly at this level? Yang Feiyu watched as Li Zongjiu flew before his eyes and then disappeared. This kind of shock was indescribable. Even now, Yang Feiyu's heart was already numb. It was not the case at all. There were too many shocking things that he had experienced today. If he were to count them, it would be impossible to count them. Monster, this is a true monster. Before this, Yang Feiyu was confident in his cultivation talent. Although there was a gap between him and the top geniuses cultivated by some super families, Yang Feiyu believed that as long as he persevered and worked hard, he would definitely be able to surpass this gap. However, when he saw Li Zongjiu, Yang Feiyu had a feeling that even if he devoted his entire life, he would not be able to catch up to him. This kind of person was simply meant to be surpassed. The power that he possessed and his own level was simply not something that ordinary people could imagine. Even if those geniuses from Royal City came, they might not necessarily be a match for this person. If one had to use 2 words to describe Li Zongjiu, it would be invincible. This kind of person was an invincible existence. Oh no, father and the rest are still in a bitter battle. Yang Feiyu suddenly slapped his thigh and hurriedly picked up his fire-tipped spear. When Yang Feiyu picked up the fire-tipped spear from the ground, he had an illusion. The fire-tipped spear in his hand was even heavier than before. What? How is this possible? Yang Feiyu looked at the fire-tipped spear in his hand in shock. When he poured yuan power into it, he immediately felt the power of the fire-tipped spear in his hand surging violently. Within the fire-tipped spear, there was a yuan rune array. When yuan power was poured into it, it would trigger the yuan rune array in his hand. This power would immediately surge out like a surging tide. It was extremely terrifying. However, after Li Zongjiu used it once, the power of the flames within the fire-tipped spear had become even more powerful. At the same time, the spear itself had also been tempered by the lightning fire, removing some impurities and refining itself to an even more pinnacle level. My fire-tipped spear is already at the peak of its type. Now that it has been tempered once again, it has directly risen to a new level. This is simply unbelievable. That Li Zongjiu is truly a god. Feeling the changes in the fire-tipped spear in his hand. In his heart, he was even more impressed with Li Zongjiu's strength. Yang Feiyu once again charged forward, while Li Zongjiu's figure soared into the air. Very quickly, he caught up with Shirlei in a dense forest. At this moment, Shirlei was also protected by the multi-faced fox beside him. The multi-faced fox recognized Li Zongjiu as the person who killed his companion last night. The multi-faced fox was also very clear about this terrifying Li Zongjiu. The members of the Lupus gang were all killed by Li Zongjiu. Not even their corpses were left behind, only a pile of ashes placed in front of him. Young Master Shirlei, since we have already helped you obtain the meteorite, the mission has been completed. Remember to settle the balance when we return. The multi-faced fox said to Shirlei. Multi-faced fox, what do you mean? Are you trying to run away? I guarantee that you won't get a single cent. Shirlei immediately roared. These people were actually so untrustworthy. They wanted to leave before the mission was completed. Our contract has already been completed. If you have anything you are not clear about, you can go to the Rain Pavilion to complete the handover. Remember, the balance is very important. The multi-faced fox immediately wanted to turn around and lead his subordinates to leave from another direction in the forest. However, all of a sudden, the surrounding trees collapsed with a loud bang. Boom! The fallen trees formed an encirclement around them, trapping everyone in it. The multi-faced fox's heart sank. It seemed that they could not escape. Since you are already here, don't be in such a hurry to leave. Li Zongjiu's voice sounded. Then, he descended from the sky and landed in front of Shirlei and the others, standing with his hands behind his back. Chapter 246. Speaking of which, Li Zongjiu felt a little embarrassed. He, the evil lord of this generation, was actually hunting down a junior. It was really a little embarrassing. Fortunately, no one could recognize Li Zongjiu, so it was not a big deal. Moreover, these people had already conspired with Li Changjiang. Based on this, they had already been sentenced to death by Li Zongjiu. When the multi-faced fox saw Li Zongjiu descending in front of him, his heart sank. Shirlei took the lead and said disdainfully while looking at Li Zongjiu in front of him. He's just one person, what's there to be afraid of? Everyone, the Sure family will give 1 million gold coins to whoever kills him. 1 million gold coins was not a high price for a Supreme General level enemy, but it was definitely not a low price either. Under normal circumstances, once one fought with others, it was very likely that one would provoke a Supreme General level enemy. Now that he had killed this Supreme General level enemy, he could even get money. This 1 million gold coins directly went into one's pocket. As long as one was a human, one would be excited and even eager to make a move. The multi-faced fox pondered for a while. It was definitely not easy to catch Li Zongjiu in front of him. Li Zongjiu's mastery of Yuan power, in addition to his mysterious means, was able to kill Luo Lang and the others back then. In fact, the multi-faced fox had already been afraid of Li Zongjiu for a long time. This was a life and death process. If he made the slightest mistake, he would end up dead. The multi-faced fox immediately gritted his teeth. Young hero, this person and I are in an employer-employee relationship. I don't insist on being your enemy. We won't accept this business. The multi-faced fox immediately raised his hand and said, then put away his bow and arrow. Li Zongjiu was an expert in archery. Naturally, he had to hide in the dark. Since he was already in the open, how could he have the opportunity to display his advantage? Moreover, he did not know how strong Li Zongjiu was. Li Zongjiu was stronger than he had imagined. Therefore, surrendering now was the wisest move. Li Zongjiu glanced at the multi-faced fox in front of him. Only the multi-faced fox surrendered. Even the subordinates of the multi-faced fox were not willing to appear. After all, 1 million gold coins was a fatal temptation to them. The most direct result was, of course, death. Today, none of you can leave. Li Zongjiu said, shaking his head. He was not a kind person, he had his own principles. Even if the multi-faced fox wanted to disassociate himself, it did not mean that he did not want to kill him. Your Excellency, are you trying to force us into a dead end? Hearing Li Zongjiu's words, the multi-faced fox was shocked. Soon, his face turned gloomy. Since Li Zongjiu did not intend to let him go, there was nothing else to say. He could only fight to the death. Of course, you can choose to kill yourself. Li Zongjiu said. In Li Zongjiu's eyes, he didn't put these people in front of him in his eyes at all. If they were a little sensible and chose to commit suicide, then this matter would be considered over and he wouldn't have to do anything. A cornered dog will jump over a wall. Since you want me dead, I will not let you live. Just as the multi-faced fox and Li Zongjiu were negotiating, Shirley had secretly organized his men. Soon, a group of people rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Kill him. Shirley's subordinates attacked one after another. Seeing this, Li Zongjiu flicked his finger. The obsidian fire spread out and turned into sparks of fire. In an instant, it entered the bodies of these people. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. These people raised the sabers in their hands and were ready to kill Li Zongjiu. However, they already felt their bodies gradually melting. All of their strength could not be gathered together. In the end, they fell to the ground with a plop. Their bodies were completely melted. Boom! It was as if a cloud of smoke spread out and burned on the spot. Some people wanted to retreat when they saw this scene. However, Li Zongjiu's fire followed closely and instantly entered their bodies with a boom. He could only make a horrified expression before his entire body was burned to ashes. 9 consecutive shots. The multi-faced fox exclaimed. At the same time, the bow in his hand fluctuated continuously. Boom! 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 Continuous rumbling sounds could be heard, and the air in front of him seemed to be torn apart. It was directly torn into countless pieces. This terrifying aura blasted out and swept toward Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu stood in the same spot. Facing this sudden attack, he did not panic. The 9 sharp arrows shot by the opponent directly circled in the air and swept toward Li Zongjiu from different angles. Li Zongjiu opened his palm. Suddenly, a flame rose from his palm. The flame suddenly rolled up and immediately swept away the arrows in front of him. Boom! Boom! Before any of the arrows could even get close to Li Zongjiu, they were already enveloped by the flames and burned to ashes. Li Zongjiu's obsidian fire. It seemed to form a very domineering self-protection barrier. Therefore, no matter which direction the opponent attacked from, they could easily take it down. He easily blocked it. What? Seeing that his arrows were burned into powder, the multi-faced fox was extremely shocked. Without hesitation, he directly turned and rushed toward the big tree. The only way at this moment was to escape. Of course, this was on the premise that he could escape. Li Zongjiu pinched a fireball with one hand and threw it forward. This fireball instantly drew a perfect arc in the sky and directly landed on the multi-faced fox's body. Ah! The multi-faced fox screamed. His body directly turned into a pile of ashes in the air. Shirley watched helplessly as more than 10 people were burned to ashes. Some of them didn't even have time to scream. However, Shirley could feel how intense the pain these people endured before they died was. These people couldn't be described as simple. The process of being burned to death must have been very long. It was really shocking. Now that everyone was dead, only Shirley was left. He stood alone among the ashes, trembling in fear as he watched Li Zongjiu in front of him approach. If you kill me, you will never know where the meteorite is. Shirley had accurately grasped his final bargaining chip. If he couldn't even negotiate with Li Zongjiu with this bargaining chip, then he would just have to fight to the death. However, Shirley was still so young. He did not want to die, and he did not want to die so soon. Hearing Shirley's words, Li Zongjiu's mouth curved into a cold smile. You still want to threaten me? You want to threaten the great evil lord, Li Zongjiu? Even if you don't want to say it, Li Zongjiu has at least 100 ways to make you spit out the location of the item. However, that would be a waste of time and energy. You don't come over. As long as you don't kill me, I will give it to you. How about it? I am still very young. I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Shirley suddenly cried and shouted. Under the pressure of Li Zongjiu's aura, he directly knelt down in front of Li Zongjiu. With both hands, he handed over his storage ring to Li Zongjiu. This is the meteorite. Take it, take it. I won't tell my father, I will never tell my father. Shirley said repeatedly. His actions were to make Li Zongjiu let him go. Li Zongjiu had been out for so long, of course, he had to abide by the rules of Jianghu. How could he not be honest? If he said he would kill Shirley, then he would kill Shirley. There was no room for negotiation on this point. Li Zongjiu took the storage ring from Shirley's hand. He revealed a trace of a smile. You've done well. Hearing Li Zongjiu's words, Shirley raised his head, thinking that there might be a way out for him. However, when he raised his head, he saw a black flame descending like a lotus flower. Boom! Shirley's whole body was swallowed by the flame. Although he was very spineless, Shirley did the right thing. In front of Li Zongjiu, no matter if he resisted or escaped, it was futile. The only thing he could do was to lie on the ground quietly. Wait for death. Chapter 247. Li Zongjiu's powerful strength was a desperate struggle for anyone. He opened the storage ring. Shirley was really a coward. He took the initiative to give the storage ring to Yi Shiwen. Inside the storage ring, there was a stone the size of a rice jar. The stone was completely black, and on the surface, it looked like a metal ball. There were also some potholes on it, as if it was a pit on the ground. It's really you. Yi Shiwen looked at the black stone in his hand. This was just the surface. The core power was the power of a crystal stone hidden in the meteorite. This crystal stone was very famous in Yi Shiwen's previous life. That frightening aura was truly shocking. In Yi Shiwen's previous life, the person who was in charge of this crystal stone was one of Li Zongjiu's early opponents. He was an primitive emperor expert. However, he was trampled under Li Zongjiu's feet later on. However, this crystal stone was also known as the Boundless Stone. The effect of the never-ending stone was extremely obvious in the early stages. It could increase the mental strength cultivation speed of the primitive emperor realm by up to 50%. At the same time, it had a very obvious effect in assisting mental strength attacks. It could be considered as a divine tool among the mental strength masters. This level of existence made some mental strength masters scramble for it. The appearance of this thing is likely to attract the attention of some powerful mental strength masters. I have to be careful. Li Zongjiu kept the meteorite for the time being. After all, this thing existed. It was also extremely easy to attract some experts. With Li Zongjiu's current mental strength, it was still very dangerous for him to face some powerful mental strength masters. These mental strength masters could kill people invisibly. Just like when Xiaoya went to deal with Luo Sha and the others. Under normal circumstances, with Xiaoya's strength, she would definitely not be a match for the three of them. However, after Xiaoya attacked, she directly hypnotized the three of them. In this way, she would directly send them into a dream. It would be an easy task to kill them. However, I have the obsidian flame protecting me now. It is almost impossible for ordinary mental strength masters to kill me silently. Since I have the item, there is no need to stay any longer. Li Zongjiu did not turn back to destroy the Shi family. Shi Lei and the others from the Shi family disappeared on the spot, along with the meteorite from outer space. In addition, Qingyuan Mountain Villa had already made contact with the Shi family. Now that they could not find the person or the item, the Shi family would not have an easy time. Even if Li Zongjiu did not take action, the Shi family would not be able to hold on for long. The Wolf Ivory Mountain Valley was also in a state of chaos. Originally, Shi Wuhan and Yang Yan could be said to be evenly matched. In fact, Shi Wuhan was faintly suppressing Yang Yan. However, after using half of the Ice Demon Stone, it suddenly became powerless. It directly shattered on the spot. At this time, Shi Wuhan was also shocked. However, there was no doubt that this item had been tampered with. It was not a complete Ice Demon Stone, but a fake one. Therefore, it caused Shi Wuhan to be instantly crushed by Yang Yan. Yang Feiyu, who went to fight for the meteorite, also withdrew. Yang Feiyu's strength was not weak. After joining the battle, the Shi family members once again felt a strong pressure. Most importantly, Shi Wuhan only saw Yang Feiyu return. He did not see his son, Shi Lei, come back. Quickly go and find out Shi Lei's whereabouts. Shi Wuhan immediately roared. Two elders also immediately withdrew and rushed into the valley. After a while, they returned to report. Shi Lei was nowhere to be seen. Yang family brat, where is my son Shi Lei? Shi Wuhan immediately roared at Yang Feiyu. At this time, he had a feeling that he wanted to eat Yang Feiyu. However, Yang Feiyu only smiled disdainfully. Your son is asking me. He is not my son. Why are you asking me? Hearing Yang Feiyu's unreasonable provocation, Shi Wuhan's lungs were about to explode from anger. He gnashed his teeth and hated Yang Feiyu to the bone. Today, I will kill you. A terrifying force blasted towards Yang Feiyu. However, it was easily blocked by Yang Yan. The fire dragon shears in his hand once again regained its divine might. Facing Shi Wuhan, Yang Yan said in an indifferent tone. Shi Wuhan, you want to kill my son? Do you think you have the ability to do so? Yang Yan was naturally happy to see Shi Wuhan flustered and exasperated. At the same time, after his strength recovered, he suppressed Shi Wuhan in front of him. Initially, the Shi family had invited quite a number of experts, intending to keep the Yang family here for good. However, on the way here, Li Zongjiu had already killed the entire Lupus gang. The multi-faced fox and the others also brought people to escort Shirley. However, they did not return. It was likely that they had met with misfortune. Or it could be said that something else had happened that Shi Wuhan did not know about. As a result, the Shi family's momentum was also scattered. There was no way for them to concentrate their strength to defeat the Yang family. Do you feel that there is no helper? Don't worry. If the Shi family is prepared, the Yang family will naturally treat you with great gifts. Yang Yan's voice faded. Yang Hongyu, who was beside him, immediately released a signal flare, which soared into the sky. Boom! It exploded in the sky. The moment the signal flare appeared, the people in the sky were shocked. Immediately, a large group of elite cavalrymen, who had been lying in ambush on the surrounding mountain peaks, rushed down. What? The surrounding vibrations and whistling sounds caused the people below to be startled. Kill! The Shi family's position was instantly destroyed. Many people were directly assassinated by the cavalry that swooped down. Savage Horse Hero Group. When Shi Wuhan saw the cavalry that suddenly appeared, his pupils immediately shrank. These people had been lurking at the side for a long time. To think that Yang Yan also had the intention to kill him. I have already said that the Shi family will not leave today. Yang Yan said with a cold smile. The two families had been fighting for so many years. They knew clearly what each other was thinking. Therefore, Yang Yan also knew very well what these people would do. And he was also prepared. Yang Hongyu, who was beside him, also walked forward and ordered the people of the Savage Horse Hero Group. This plan was also provided by Yang Hongyu. Last night, Yang Hongyu had rushed back to the city and gathered his men. Early in the morning, these men had been hiding in the surroundings since the start of the battle. As long as Yang Hongyu gave the order, they would immediately attack and kill all of these people. I didn't expect you to come too. He Xiong looked at the leader of the Savage Horse Hero Group with a trace of surprise in his eyes. The two of them were acquaintances and had cooperated with each other before. The temperament of the Savage Horse Hero Group and the others was quite to their liking. Moreover, they were also good people. The sudden appearance of the Savage Horse Hero Group directly caught the Shi family off guard. They did not expect that the other party had been hiding until now. Retreat! Shi Wuhan shouted. At this moment, it was already impossible for him to reap any benefits from this. I don't know where those people from Qing Yuan Manor are hiding. Although I didn't have much hope for them in the beginning, at least you guys keep your word a little bit. However, at this moment, Shi Wuhan probably did not know that the people he counted on had all been burned into a pile of ashes. Even if they wanted to come out and help the Shi family, it was already impossible. They can't escape. Fire Dragon Scissors, kill them. After paying such a high price, how could Yang Yan let the Shi family escape so easily? He had to pay a painful price for it. The Fire Dragon Scissors suddenly bloomed with a terrifying light, spreading forward. In an instant, the Fire Dragon Scissors turned into two dragons, engulfing the Shi family people. Rumble. Ah! My leg. Run quickly. Retreat quickly. They are crazy. Puff, smoke immediately rose from all over the place. In the end, Shi Wuhan was barely able to escape under the protection of a few elders who went all out. As for the remaining people, they were completely left behind in the Wolf Ivory Mountain range. In this bloody battle, more than 9 elders of the Shi family were killed. Even if Shi Wuhan could escape, it was estimated that the Shi family would not be able to continue its former glory and would soon be replaced by other forces. Chapter 248. Some itinerant cultivators in the vicinity of Lower Kingstown had witnessed this bloody battle. At the same time, they had also witnessed the rise and fall of a great power. The one that had fallen was naturally the Shi family. Although they weren't completely sure, since the Yang family dared to do this, they naturally had a way to completely crush the Shi family and never give them a chance to rise again. Feiyu, Where did Shirley and the black-robed men go? Yang Yan asked in a deep voice as he and the others rested on the side and directed the cleanup process on the battlefield. Given the strength of the Shi family and the preparations that the other party had made, it was naturally obvious that these people were not weak. They were also very well prepared, so it was impossible to let them go so easily. However, the speed at which the battle ended was also dumbfounding. Some people couldn't believe it. That was why Yang Yan asked this question. Not only that, but the protector of Wuxue Pil sect, Li Zongjiu, had also disappeared. The meteorite had been taken away, so it was very likely that it was with Shirley and the black-robed men who had disappeared. Being able to defeat the Shi family this time was already a considerable victory. With such an advantage, the Yang family was extremely excited. The Yang family had already profited greatly. Of course, if they could obtain the meteorite, it would be a double blessing. Father, those black-robed men were all killed by the expert invited by third brother. In addition, Shirley, the multi-faced fox and the others left with the meteorite. However, Protector Li has already chased after them. I don't know how the battle is going. Those black-robed men were all killed by him. Although they didn't know the identity of the other party for the time being, there was no doubt that the appearance of the ice demon stone was definitely related to this faction. As for that Li Zongjiu, he had killed so many people without making a sound. Furthermore, he had relied on his own strength to do so. This was indeed a little exaggerated. Yes, if I'm not wrong, the strength of those 7 people was above the Yuan general realm. However, in front of Protector Li, they didn't have the slightest ability to fight back. Yang Feiyu told them about the shocking scene he had seen. Even if he told them about it, most people wouldn't believe him, but it was the truth. What? Second brother, don't talk nonsense. Even Yang Feihong couldn't believe it. 1 against 7, and it was an instant kill. How is this possible? Is he Superman? Even Superman couldn't be so powerful. This was too much of a boast. I saw it with my own eyes. Protector Li's strength far surpasses ours. Seeing the look of admiration on Yang Feiyu's face, Yang Yan was slightly surprised. One must know that Yang Yan understood his son very well. Yang Feiyu's arrogance was even more so. It was as if he was the only one in the world who knew how to cultivate. However, this also proved that Yang Feiyu was extremely talented. There must be a reason why Yang Feiyu admired Li Zongjiu so much. Heng Yu, you must find Protector Li when you return to the city. Our Yang family also needs to make friends with such powerhouses. If he was already so powerful at such a young age, how powerful would he be in a few more years? Furthermore, to have such a cultivation at such a young age, the power behind him must not be simple. It definitely wasn't as simple as it seemed. There must be an even more terrifying existence behind Li Zongjiu. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make friends with such a person. They couldn't afford to mess it up. Yes, father. Yang Hengyu hurriedly replied. Yang Hengyu had finally gained the attention of his father by assigning him such an important task. Feiyu, take some people and search for Shirley. Find out what happened. Yes. Yang Feiyu once again took some people and chased after Shirley. However, they might not be able to catch up with him. Perhaps he had already been dealt with by Li Zongjiu. 2 days later. Li Zongjiu had already left Lower Kong City behind. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor's recruitment was only set up in second-class cities. Cities like Northern Medicine City weren't qualified either. In the second-class cities, Jade Wave Giant City was still a distance away from Li Zongjiu, and the nearest one was Northern Medicine City. To pass through Northern Medicine City, one must first pass through the boundary of Northern Medicine City. After Li Zongjiu left Lower Kong City, he headed straight for Northern Medicine City. It was already a day and a half before he arrived at Northern Medicine City. Along the way, Li Zongjiu had also collected some medicinal herbs in the depths of the forest. These herbs were only used to refine elixirs. The real top-grade elixirs were not so easy to collect. Just the guardian soul beast alone was enough to make you suffer. Initially, Li Zongjiu came to Northern Medicine City in a hurry to kill everyone. Originally, he was only looking for trouble with the Northern Medicine Alliance. However, the City Lord mansion appeared halfway, so Li Zongjiu conveniently killed the City Lord. Li Zongjiu did not know the current situation of Northern Medicine City. This time, he came to change his horse. Northern Medicine City, City Lord Mansion. At this time, the City Lord Mansion of Northern Medicine City had been replaced by a handsome young man. When this young man took office, it could be said that people from all over came to congratulate him. No one dared to ignore this young man. Logically speaking, when such a young man took office, many of the old forces in the city would definitely make things difficult for him. However, this time, it was unusual. They were incomparably supportive of some of the decisions made by this young man called Zhang Yu. Whoosh! A white figure landed in the courtyard. He quickly rushed into the study. Sir, urgent news. Zhang Yu stood in front of the desk, holding a pen in his hand. It hovered above the paper. When the pen in his hand fell, it carried a trace of cold light. It was done in one breath. On the paper, he wrote the word, sword, which was taller than a person. When the pen in his hand left the paper, the table also collapsed with a boom. The collapsed table made Zhang Yu frown. This last move, returning heart like arrow, I still can't control it well. After a long sigh, he put the pen in his hand aside and wiped his hands. Present it. The man in white quickly handed over the file in his hand. Zhang Yu opened the scroll in his hand and carefully read it. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile. Li Zongjiu, what a good Li Zongjiu. I've finally waited for you. Order the entire city to be under martial law for 3 days. No one is allowed to enter or leave. In addition, summon the patriarchs of the 4 big families to me for a meeting. That Li Zongjiu must stay in the city. Yes. Sir. Then, Zhang Yu put the scroll in his hand into a drawer. There were already 3 similar scrolls in the drawer. Just 2 days ago, all kinds of information were quickly sent to him. Now, the entire Dinghuan province knew about the meteorite. To others, its whereabouts were unknown. However, to Zhang Yu, it was very clear that it was on Li Zongjiu. Ever since he had taken over this place, the first important person he had seen was Li Zongjiu. The information only showed that Li Zongjiu was only 16 years old. However, in the Fog Snow Pellet sect, he had become a fog protector. Furthermore, he had recently led his own family and seemed to be on the rise. In Zhang Yu's eyes, all these things were very funny. Whether he was a dragon or a worm, he was destined to be born. No matter how hard an ordinary person tried, they couldn't change their fate. Only a person like him was destined to be superior. There will always be 2 worms who want to change their fate. I'll let you know that even if a worm changes its fate, it's still a worm. The corner of his mouth curved into a sinister smile. All along, Zhang Yu's image in Northern Medicine City was sunny and upright. Even his smile was extremely infectious. However, when there was no one around, he would reveal his true colors. Chapter 249. The post station was located not far from the city gate. There was a place specially set aside for the preparation of horses. Li Zongjiu was also sitting on a chair to rest. He was also flipping through the daily updates of the Shengyan Dynasty's school. This was a very good invention, but in some small places, there were not many people who could read. This thing was also called an official report. Some of the things published in the report were also things that the Shengyan dynasty wanted people to know. For ordinary people, it was enough to be able to obtain the information in the report. Relatively speaking, it was still quite authoritative. Next autumn, the crown prince will be appointed. So soon, Li Zongjiu looked at the report. Now, the dozen or so princes of the royal family were all driven out of the palace. Some went to the border, some went to the border, some went to study, and some went to do business. Of course, it was not as simple as imagined, but in short, these princes could not be idle. If they wanted to be appointed as the crown prince, they had to make some achievements and let people know their strength. They also had to let the people of the world see their strength. Of course, there were also quite a lot of invisible battles. After all, they only had a year. In this year, they had to make some achievements and at the same time, they had to save their own lives. They had to become the master of the Sheng dynasty and dominate the world. Who wouldn't want such supreme power? If I remember correctly, the crown prince seems to be the most inconspicuous 14th prince. This boy is very insidious. Li Zhongjiu thought. Li Zhongjiu still remembered these things from his previous life. After all, Li Zhongjiu had lived for 3,000 years. Most of his time was in the Sheng dynasty. The changes in the world and some changes in the situation were closely related. He did not know if there would be other changes. After all, after his rebirth, many things would change. For example, Li Changjiang could have been in charge of the Li family, but because of Li Zhongjiu's appearance, his life was rewritten. Many fates would also be rewritten. For example, King Qing Yuan, who wanted to cause trouble. Oh right, the 14th prince, because he killed King Qing Yuan, became a favorable competitor and finally succeeded in becoming the crown prince. Li Zhongjiu just read the report to pass some time. It was a hot afternoon, but Li Zhongjiu heard the sound of branches. He looked up and saw that the city gate was closing. And the notice board had already posted a martial law order. The reason for the martial law order was very nonsensical. In order to prevent the spread of the poison in the city was cleaning up. During this period, no one could enter or leave the city. Basically, Northern Medicine City was a place to grow spiritual herbs. Who didn't know the principle of keeping one's health and getting rid of insects? How could they use such an excuse? Did they really think that the ordinary people were idiots? Although they knew that the other party had casually found a reason, once the city was under martial law, if they still wanted to force their way out, they would be chopped into 18 pieces or thrown into the dungeon. What's going on? Li Zhongjiu looked at the tightly shut city gate. In addition, a large number of city guards had also set up a formation at the city gate. No one was allowed to approach the city gate. Otherwise, they would be killed immediately. This kind of ferocious aura made the ordinary people somewhat unable to avoid it. It's under martial law. Don't worry. The young man of the courier station glanced at him and said, "Your horse is fine, but now it's under martial law. You can't leave. It seems that it will be closed for 2 or 3 days. You might as well stay here for 2 nights. This was too much of a coincidence. Although this small city gate couldn't stop Li Zhongjiu. Li Zhongjiu wasn't the kind of person who liked to cause trouble. Moreover, with his level of cultivation, his intuition told him that someone was watching him. Li Zhongjiu's intuition told him that this martial law might have something to do with him. Then I'd like to see who's so unafraid of death. Li Zhongjiu nodded. Since he couldn't leave the city, he might as well stay here for now. Just as well, he could take out the boundless stone in his hand. Li Zhongjiu found a cheap inn nearby. This inn only had 2 floors. The first floor was the dining area, called the canteen. The second floor was the guest room. There weren't many guest rooms, only 5 in total. When Li Zhongjiu arrived, there was only 1 room left. It was in the middle of the passage. Li Zhongjiu didn't suspect anything. After checking into the room, he sat on the bed. Although the room's environment was ordinary, for someone like Li Zhongjiu who had lived in the open, he didn't feel anything. If he took out the meteorite in this room, it would instantly smash through the floor. Therefore, Li Zhongjiu had to cut the meteorite in the storage ring. This made it more difficult, but with Li Zhongjiu's current mind power, it wasn't impossible. Whoosh! Li Zongjiu sent his mind power into the storage ring. Li Zongjiu's mind power also condensed into a thin line and gradually cut the meteorite. During the process of condensing his mind power and cutting the meteorite, Li Zongjiu felt an extremely strong resistance. A repulsive force. It almost shattered Li Zongjiu's mind power. This guy is so tenacious. Li Zongjiu couldn't believe it. If he continued, his mind power would be crushed by the repulsive force. In that case, Li Zongjiu's mind power would be damaged. However, this provided Li Zongjiu with a way to temper his mind power. As long as he stopped at the end of this limit, he would be able to increase the power of his mind power by repeating this process. This is a good method. Although the stone of vast sea hasn't been taken out, it has the effect of restoring mind power. Li Zongjiu thought. Although this method was a little difficult, why wouldn't he be happy if he could improve his mind power cultivation? It could be said that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to improve his mind power cultivation. Seems like I'll have to concoct more yuan increasing elixirs to complement my cultivation. Otherwise, I'll still be in danger in the imperial city. Once they passed the test of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, they would be sent to the manor to cultivate. The Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was located in Sacred Flame City. Sacred Flame City was filled with experts, and Yuan ancestor martialists and even Yuan monarch martialists could be seen everywhere. Of course, Yuan monarch martialists were basically the treasures of the various families. Under normal circumstances, they wouldn't show themselves easily. However, it wasn't difficult to meet some Yuan monarch martialists. It was precisely because of this that Li Zongjiu needed more power, more strength, enough to protect himself. After he finished studying at the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, Li Zongjiu would find a way to break through to the Absolute Saint Realm. After that, he would return to Luoxia City and build his own territory and power. He wanted to protect the Li family and ensure that they could survive in the midst of the turbulent times of the world. Night fell. Li Zongjiu tried to use the meteorite to temper his mind power several times. Although the process was extremely painful, he could feel the benefits it brought. Li Zongjiu could feel the obvious benefits. Although his mind power hadn't broken through to the next level, Li Zongjiu's mind power had become extremely resilient. Buzz, suddenly, Li Zongjiu felt an omen in his mind. Immediately, Li Zongjiu exited his cultivation state. It's finally here. Chapter 250. The surroundings were silent. All of a sudden, the candle on the table in Li Zongjiu's room flickered and went out. Petty tricks. Li Zongjiu sneered, and the candle burned again. The burning flame continued to emit black smoke, which instantly filled the entire room. From the smoke, some flying insects seemed to emerge. They quickly landed on Li Zongjiu's body. Buzz buzz buzz. These insects emitted an extremely annoying sound. Li Zongjiu sat in the same spot without moving. Soon, these insects landed on Li Zongjiu's body. They seemed to want to inject poison into Li Zongjiu's body. However, there was no place to bite. There were too many poisonous insects. Hundreds and thousands of them landed on Li Zongjiu's body. Li Zongjiu's lips curled into a sneer. A mere illusion. How dare you be so presumptuous in front of this sovereign? Li Zongjiu let out a cold snort. In the next moment, the poisonous bug that had landed on Li Zongjiu's body actually started to burn crazily. Boom! 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 Without exception, these poisonous insects were burned to ashes. Even some of the poisonous insects that were still flying in the air turned into sparks and landed on the floor. They seemed to turn into smoke and disappeared with the wind. This was the method of a spirit master. Spirit masters killed people invisibly. This was because an ordinary person would not be able to come into contact with this method. If Li Zongjiu saw these poisonous bugs, he would be extremely terrified and would waste his physical strength in vain. In the end, he would also die from exhaustion of his yuan power. However, these poisonous bugs that emitted a buzzing sound could not be completely exterminated no matter how hard he tried. Because they did not exist in the first place. How could he kill them all? The other party seemed to see that this method was not effective. He attacked again, and a black hole appeared on the floor in front of him. A huge claw reached out from the black hole and grabbed Li Zhongzhou's leg. Only an unknown length of arm reached out from the black hole. Li Zhongzhou was disdainful of this strange method. This is a method to scare children. Break! Li Zhongzhou ignited a black flame in the room. The appearance of this flame did not bring light to the surroundings. However, one could clearly feel the blazing existence within it. It emitted a force that could not be ignored. Following the appearance of this flame, there seemed to be an empty sound of bewilderment. Boom! Everything in front of him disappeared. Li Zhongzhou opened his eyes. He was still in the room and had not moved at all. The candle on the table was still there, undamaged, and still burning quietly. Bang! The wall in front of him was suddenly smashed by a huge force. A figure walked out from behind the wall. His body was abnormally strong, and his arms were also wearing wrist guards made of black iron. He looked like a meat shield. The person who walked out was also panting heavily. His gaze was as firm as iron as it locked onto Li Zhongzhou. If Li Zhongzhou wanted to escape, the short axe in his hand would be thrown without hesitation. With the opponent's strength, the axe would hit its target with 100% accuracy at this distance. Hee, interesting. Your Yuan force can actually attack mental strength. Not bad. A stooped old man walked out from behind the brawny man. A strong mind energy master and a meat shield warrior. This combination was basically the nightmare of some lone wolves. Mind energy masters had many tricks up their sleeves. If one was not careful, they would fall for it. On top of that, there was a meat shield warrior who could hold you back. Even if you wanted to escape, it would not be that easy. A level 3 mind energy master and a level 8 origin general. Is this all you can do? Li Zhongzhou spoke first without waiting for the other party to speak. In front of Li Zhongzhou, these two people had nowhere to hide. He saw through them at a glance. The old man was not surprised when he heard this. After all, Li Zhongzhou's mind energy cultivation was here. It was not strange that he could see through them. I did not expect you to be able to enter level 3 at such a young age. I am really curious, what kind of origin formula do you cultivate? The old man said indifferently. In his eyes, Li Zhongzhou was already in the bag. He could even chat with him. What was wrong with that? Come over here and I will tell you. Li Zhongzhou said. Hearing Li Zhongzhou's words, the old man's eyes gradually darkened. You are very happy with this skin. I want to see if you can still be so arrogant after I peel off your skin. Li Zhongzhou did not waste any time and pulled out his 6 revolution steel blade. If the two of you can walk out of here today, I will no longer be called Li Zhongzhou. The purpose of these two people was to take Li Zhongzhou's life. There was no doubt about this. Li Zhongzhou's strength was not weak. He could withstand the opponent's mind energy attack. Otherwise, Li Zhongzhou would have been directly killed by the opponent's mind energy. Shameless boasting. If I don't break all the bones in your body today, I, Tai Hu, will not be able to survive in the underworld. The brawny man roared and waved the short axe in his hand. He first knocked on his shield and let out a battle cry. Just this roar alone was enough to be heard clearly within 100 meters. But in fact, this inn was already enveloped by the mind energy of the spirit master. Any movement here would not spread out, so they could act so wantonly to make it easier to kill. With a spirit master in charge, Li Zhongzhou could not easily use his mind energy to fight against Tai Hu in front of him. Otherwise, once he found an opening, he could be killed in an instant. Fighting against Tai Hu did not require mind energy. The origin energy in his body spread over the steel blade. It looked like the steel blade was carrying a little bit of fire. Boom! The origin energy carried the steel blade and slashed out. The blade chi was unparalleled and swift. Li Zongjiu did not use any blade technique. Any blade technique was just to expand the power of this move to defeat the enemy. Li Zongjiu's use of these weapons had already reached the level of returning to the original state. Therefore, there was no need for these ordinary blade techniques. The blade slashed out. Tai Hu directly pushed out the shield in his hand. He wanted to block Li Zongjiu's move halfway. This way, the power of the blade technique would be reduced. Most importantly, Li Zongjiu's blade technique looked soft and weak, without the slightest bit of power to speak of. With your strength, I can crush you to death with one hand. Tai Hu's left hand exerted force. If Li Zongjiu's strength was not enough, then the blade technique would hit the shield and the force would be reflected. Just the power of the rebound would be enough to break Li Zongjiu's arm. One must know that Li Zongjiu's arm looked so weak that it could not withstand a single blow. Clang! However, Tai Hu's calculation was wrong. From the beginning, his perception was wrong. He originally wanted to block Li Zongjiu's move halfway, but Li Zongjiu's speed was faster. Before Tai Hu's shield arrived, Li Zongjiu had already completed the burst of power. The moment the blade technique fell, the shield was directly cut in half. Intense sparks appeared on the dark steel shield. Not long after, the shield in Tai Hu's hand could no longer withstand the attack. Boom! The shield in Tai Hu's left hand instantly shattered. A wave of power also spread towards Tai Hu's arm, trying to invade it. It blasted into Tai Hu's arm. Even Tai Hu did not have time to react to this sudden surge of power. His expression was still frozen at the moment when his shield was broken by Li Zongjiu. How is this possible? Crack! The clear sound of bones breaking made Tai Hu feel pain. Fuck! Tai Hu roared angrily. The axe in his hand also chopped towards Li Zongjiu's head. If it hit, Li Zongjiu's head would probably explode. However, Li Zongjiu's speed was incomparably fast. The 6-revolution steel blade in his hand had already taken the lead and directly chopped Tai Hu's wrist. Tai Hu's arm was directly chopped off by Li Zongjiu. Fresh blood spurted out from the broken wrist. Another slash. Tai Hu's head directly rolled on the ground. The difference between the two could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. If Li Zongjiu wanted to kill Tai Hu, it was simply a matter of a thought. Seeing the meat shield warrior who had been following him for so long being so easily beheaded, the old man behind him was clearly shocked as well. Li Zongjiu's strength was more powerful than he had expected. Chapter 251. At the same time, when Tai Hu died, he was already prepared. He took out a string of prayer beads from his wrist. With a flick of his finger, one of the prayer beads immediately flew in front of Li Zongjiu. Whoosh! The power contained in this prayer bead was also very strong. It exploded in front of Li Zongjiu. Boom! Suddenly, a light screen trapped Li Zongjiu within it. Origin item. Li Zongjiu looked at the item that his opponent had taken out. It was obviously very powerful. When he took out this item, he was obviously worried about Li Zongjiu's strength. He knew that he was no match for Li Zongjiu, or that Li Zongjiu was a threat. Therefore, he had to take down Li Zongjiu to prevent other situations from happening. The first prayer bead trapped Li Zongjiu, causing Li Zongjiu's movements to become extremely slow. Time seemed to have slowed down under this light screen. At the same time, it also gave Li Zongjiu a very strong pressure. Any consumption of energy would be 10 times more than usual. However, the time that this light screen could last was also very limited. The old man also knew this, so he didn't waste any time at all. He took out the other prayer bead again and aimed it at Li Zongjiu. Die, ghost spear. As soon as he finished speaking, the prayer beads in the old man's hand instantly turned into a 1-meter-long black spear with red tassels. With a flick of his finger, the black ghost spear immediately rushed towards Li Zongjiu with terrifying power. Boom! Li Zongjiu stood in place, unable to dodge. He didn't even have time to block. Bang! The spear directly pierced Li Zongjiu's heart, sending Li Zongjiu flying. The light screen shattered, but Li Zongjiu had already been hit. Even if the light screen dissipated, it would be useless. Hee, young man, you are still too inexperienced. After using the ghost spear to hit Li Zongjiu, the old man was obviously very proud. One had to know that almost no one could block this move. He hadn't wasted his years in the martial arts world. Jianghu was a dangerous place. If he didn't prepare some life-saving items and deadly weapons, he wouldn't have been able to survive until now. That move just now was a result of countless experiments. Only then could he achieve such a perfect effect under such circumstances. If you are hit by the ghost spear, you will definitely die. I have never seen anyone who has survived. It's a pity that Iron Tiger's body is in such a good condition. If his head wasn't chopped off, he might be able to be refined into a puppet. The old man thought for a moment and prepared to step forward and take Li Zongjiu's storage ring. After all, that meteorite was what he needed. To him, Li Zongjiu's life was just a matter of time. When the old man walked up, he saw Li Zongjiu lying on the ground with a spear in his chest. Obviously, this was a very tragic end. Just as the old man was about to take Li Zongjiu's storage ring, he saw Li Zongjiu's hand move. What? Li Zongjiu's hand directly reached out and grabbed the old man's throat. You are not dead. The old man wanted to use his mental strength, but Li Zongjiu was faster. He picked up the long sword next to him and chopped off the old man's head. Whoosh! This was the fate of a mental strength master after being closed in. He threw the head in his hand to the side. Li Zongjiu then pulled out the spear in his chest. Hiss! Even Li Zongjiu couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. What a coincidence! The dark force is ineffective against me. This ghost spear contained a terrifying dark yuan energy. It was because of this dark yuan energy that those who were struck by it had a 100% chance of dying. To ordinary people, this dark yuan energy was like a deadly poison. Once they came into contact with it, they would die very quickly. However, when Li Zongjiu was invaded by this dark essence energy, the black dragon origin spirit within his body directly absorbed this dark essence energy cleanly. As for his chest, it was only a superficial wound. Although it pierced his chest, Li Zongjiu's body was protected by the golden dragon origin spirit, and his heart was heavily wrapped by the golden dragon origin spirit. Under the protection of such a heavy armor, it could be said that he was unscathed. That old man probably didn't even dream of it. He had originally prepared a sure kill move, but he actually encountered a body with immunity that was hard to come by in 10,000 years. The black dragon origin spirit in his body was a supreme existence of dark force in his previous life. Such a small amount of dark force wasn't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. The wound on his chest had already recovered in a few breaths of time. Li Zongjiu took the prayer beads from the old man's hand. There were 2 black prayer beads on it. Li Zongjiu directly crushed them and absorbed the dark force within. In addition, there were 2 white prayer beads. These were the origin tools that had previously trapped Li Zongjiu. The power of imprisonment. Unfortunately, this thing can only be used at close range, and the hit rate isn't high. If it's unexpected, there's a chance of success. Li Zongjiu observed for a while. This prayer bead needed to be used within a range of 10 meters, and it could only be maintained for a short 3 seconds. If an external force came into contact with it, the power of imprisonment would directly disappear. Therefore, it needed to be attacked with other origin tools. These people really came for me. It's a pity that I killed them too quickly. I don't even know who came to find trouble. Li Zongjiu thought. However, Li Zongjiu also found a token on these 2 people. Qing Yuan. It's Qing Yuan Manor again. Looks like these people's forces have already invaded more than half of Dingquan province. They didn't go to the bigger cities, but chose to jump around in such a place. These people are really bored. Li Zhongjiu kept the 2 identity tokens. The front of the token was Qing Yuan, while the back had their code names. Therefore, as long as he took it out and asked, he would know who was behind it. When Li Zhongjiu found that person, it would be the end of that person's life. At this moment, in the city lord's mansion, the patriarchs of the 4 great families received orders. They came to the city lord mansion for a meeting. However, when they arrived at the city lord mansion, they were asked to wait in the living room. The combined age of the 4 of them was more than 200 years old. The combined power of the 4 great families was enough to turn northern Medicine City upside down several times. However, they were still obediently sitting on the chairs, drinking tea, and waiting for a young man who was not even 25 years old. Even if they were unhappy, they did not express it. The relationship between the 4 great families was also quite fierce. It was very rare for them to be able to sit here peacefully for so long. Sorry for the long wait. I was arranging some things just now, so I came a little late. Zhang Yu, who was dressed in white, walked out with a white jade belt around his waist. Just the jade on the belt alone was worth no less than 10 million gold yuan. This could be said to be very ostentatious, without the slightest intention of keeping a low profile. Seeing the arrogant Zhang Yu walk out, although he said that he had waited for a long time, he did not show the slightest trace of embarrassment on his face. It's fine, we also just arrived. The patriarch of the Hong family said. Among the 4 great families, the patriarch of the Hong family was the only one who was popular in many aspects. In terms of business, he was also the one who walked in the middle. However, when it came to a real outbreak, such people were usually the first to be eliminated or the first to fall out. Remember this person's appearance. Zhang Yu threw a picture scroll on the table. The person in the picture scroll looked exactly like Li Zhongjiu. I want you to gather your men and do your best to arrest this person. Zhang Yu said indifferently. Hearing Zhang Yu's words, the first to be unable to sit still was the Mo family. The patriarch of the Mo clan had always advocated that if people didn't offend him, he wouldn't offend them. In addition, he also paid a lot of attention to business matters. Fighting and killing were all vulgar things. If he had to do this kind of thing personally, it would be too degrading. Moreover, Zhang Yu's tone seemed to be a little too much. The reason why the 4 great families were sitting here today was to give face to King Qing Yuan and not to Zhang Yu. Otherwise, they would have already flipped the table and left. To be able to make the family's strength become the top family in northern Medicine City, the power in their hands was naturally not so simple. Zhang Yu, who had just injured people, actually wanted to use his words to casually order the 4 great families around. This was simply a fool's dream. City Lord Zhang, are you mistaken? We are all legitimate business families and do some small businesses. The matter of arresting people is naturally left to the authorities and the city guards. The patriarch of the Mo family, Mo Xingshan, said, "You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."